be mild. Wake Forest coach Dave Clawson resigned. In the NBA, Denver blew a 23-point lead first half, but still won on a late bucket at Sacramento, 130-129. The Clippers got 41 points from James Harden in an easy win against Utah. Philadelphia and Detroit with victories. For the Pistons, it was an overtime win against Miami, 125-124. I'm Steve DeSager.
Previously on Unsportsmanlike Conduct.
Yeah, and part of this does come from the fact that, well, Nebraska's made a move on the offensive side, and everyone assumes they're going to be much better. But
on the offensive side?
On the offensive side.
Yeah, for sure.
They assume they're going to be much better.
Yeah.
But instead of losing 13-10 games, will they be losing 35-32 games?
Yeah. It's a great question.
Unsportsmanlike Conduct with John Bishop and Josh Peterson. Weekdays 2 to 6 on 1620 The Zone. Your Omaha area forecast from the Godfather's Pizza Weather Center and KETV Newswatch 7.
More clouds on the way Tuesday, but staying mild. Expect mainly cloudy skies throughout the day with a light southeast breeze. Highs in the mid-40s. I'm meteorologist Sean Everson from KETV Newswatch 7.
1620 The Zone. Traffic.
From the Pyramid Roofing Time-Saving Traffic Center. Good morning. Hope your Tuesday's off to a great start today. If you are heading out early this morning, no major delays showing up in the metro right now. No signs of any accidents or slow traffic buildup, and clear of any unexpected obstructions currently. As updates roll in, I will get those to you. Just stay safe and wear that seatbelt. I'm Peter Krenzer. This time-saving traffic is brought to you by Fernando's.
Help someone get their Fernando's fix this Christmas with Fernando's gift cards. Plus, when you buy $100 in gift cards, new and current Fernando's Rewards members get $25 in rewards for 2025. Feliz Navidad from Fernando's. FernandosOmaha.com.
Cross-Train Brewing Company, the official sponsor of One Beer Friday on 1620 The Zone. Cross-Train Brewing Company, always evolving, trying to make every beer enjoyable, drinkable, and leave you asking, what are they going to do next? Join them at the original location in La Vista, downtown at their Draftworks location, or be the hero at your holiday get-together when you bring Cross-Train Brew with you. Find out what's on tap at crosstrainbrewing.com. Cross-Train Brewing Company, where beer is never boring.
This holiday season, get 2 $10 ride discounts with code FESTIVE10 in the Uber app until January 1st. Give yourself the gift of getting home safe and keep the festivities going all season long. Download the Uber app, order a ride, and get your 2 $10 ride vouchers with code FESTIVE10. That's FESTIVE10. One for the ride there and one for the ride home. It's as easy as having holiday fun and letting Uber drive when the night is done. Happy holidays. Paid for by NDOT Highway Safety Office.
You probably never knew, but there is a name behind No Name Nutrition. That name is Hurley, and the Hurley family is dedicated to bringing the best products and experience available to you and your family. At No Name Nutrition, you won't just find natural foods, vitamins, or supplements. You'll also find bulk herbs, cosmetics, and cleaning products, even essential oils, more than 15,000 items. For nearly 50 years, No Name Nutrition, with the knowledge and service you deserve. North 72nd, West Center Road, and at nonamenenutrition.com.
Shop Woodhouse Hyundai during the Hyundai Getaway Sales Event. With the most versatile lineup of sedans and SUVs, like the Hyundai Elantra or the Hyundai Palisade, you'll find the perfect combination of style and functionality. Right now, receive up to $7,000 off MSRP on the full lineup of 2024 Hyundai Santa Fe's. And when you shop Woodhouse Hyundai, you can rest easy with Hyundai Owner's Assurance, America's best 10-year, 100,000-mile powertrain limited warranty. Visit one of our 2 convenient locations in Omaha, off 144th and Giles Road, or off 183rd and Dodge today. Or browse all our current offers online at woodhousehyundai.com or woodhouseplacehyundai.com. With approved credit, tax title license extra. Must finance with Hyundai Motor Finance. Cannot be combined with any other offers. $299 doc fee due at signing. Offer expires December 31st, 2024. See dealer for details.
It takes hard work to make Nebraska the right place to raise a family, build a business, or grow a community. We're counting on working parents to make it happen, and they're counting on childcare professionals to have their backs. Employers and other contributors can earn up to a $100,000 tax credit for strengthening childcare in our communities and state. Learn more at nebraskachildcaretaxcredit.org. Brought to you by First 5 Nebraska and Nebraska Children and Families Foundation and aired by the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
You know what's really getting old? Having to do more with less. With Ramp, you can do more with more. Ramp is the corporate card and expense management software that saves businesses like yours an average of 5%. That's more for you to invest back into your operations, your staff, your bottom line, you name it. And that means less time spent on manual tasks, less time spent closing your books, and less time spent worrying about where your money went. All with Ramp.
I grew my hospitality company fast. So fast that we actually felt serious growing pains. Ramp helped us automate our manual expense tracking, saving the team valuable time. Now we have more time to spend on what really matters, our guests and their experience.
Ramp gives you more time, more visibility, and more control over your business. Don't settle for anything less. Start using Ramp for free today at ramp.com/radio. Ramp.com/radio. That's RAMP.com/radio.
Cards issued by Sutton Bank and Celtic Bank, members of FDIC. Terms and conditions apply.
The holidays should be a time of magic and joy for every child. Sadly, for many, those feelings of warmth and wonder seem out of reach. Your generosity can bring smiles and a sense of normalcy to those who need it most. When you donate to Child Saving Institute, you become a substitute Santa and a beacon of hope. Join Child Saving Institute and become a substitute Santa today. Donate now at childsaving.org/substitute Santa.
Hi, I'm Trooper Ty with the Nebraska State Patrol. Winter weather can create dangerous driving conditions on Nebraska roadways. It's critical that you understand the conditions before hitting the road. Nebraska's 511 system provides updates on the road conditions, road closure, live camera views from across the state, and you can even track where plows are on state highways. And if you become stranded on the road, call star 55 and we'll send a trooper to help. Thank you and drive safe, Nebraska.
This message presented by the Nebraska State Patrol, the Nebraska Broadcasters Association, and the NDOT Highway Safety Office.
Equitable Bank. We take banking personally. EquitableOnline.com.
Roofing, siding, and gutters. Make the right call with the rooferees at John Higgins Weather Guard.
1620 The Zone. Live from 50th and Capitol Avenue in the Big O. This is Gary and Matt on 1620 The Zone. 1620thezone.com and 1620 The Zone TV. Now here's Gary, Matt, and Jim.
All right, good morning, everybody. Welcome in on a Tuesday. Going up on a Tuesday. Did you guys find the third NFL game that was on last night? Were you searching for the game that might actually be good?
I wasn't even looking for the second.
That was...
and look, I was right.
By the way, which was first and which was second? Because they were both terrible.
I'll always go with Bears-Vikings first. You had me intrigued. That lasted all of 5 minutes.
I like your intrigue because I like my coffee. I like my coffee black.
Hey, cheers. We gonna cheers?
Oh, hey, thank you.
You're welcome.
What bet would you like to make today? You want to? By the way, so two things here.
Go ahead,
real quick. Because speaking of coffee, people that are watching on 1620 The Zone TV, it is the Scooters Coffee Frisco Bowl. So I have my Scooters Coffee little Yeti there.
Look at that.
And the free coffee from you. But I was looking for the third game because that was some rough football last night. The Raiders-Falcons game was a crazy bad game. Your game was just
embarrassing.
I feel like I should pour one out for you. I sat next to Nick, a diehard Bears fan like yourself. I can't relate. I can't relate to you guys.
It was embarrassing.
I can't relate to dumb, bad, stupid football.
Nick Grimm? Who were you? Or just
Nick Hanley?
Oh, okay.
Although Nick Grimm's team's not much better this year either
Dolphins
because
fan.
Tua thinks Cabo's not in Mexico.
This has been unequivocally the worst Bears season of my life. By far.
It's almost over.
Bar none.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they are more than likely going to lose 11 games in a row after starting 4-2.
Impressive. Yeah, remember the friends you made along the way when you were 4-2?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I was working a lot of those games, so we were all...
You had a lot of friends.
We did. I did have a lot of friends.
Life was good.
I mean, how do you not...
Just let it out.
How do you not...
It seems like there's a Monday or Tuesday experience on the show all fall.
Yeah. Now he works for the Zone.
How do you not
Just
check into the game if you're a center at fullback. Okay, Doug Kramer, who was the idiot who fumbled the football against Washington on the 2-yard line, who the even bigger idiot was Shane Waldron, who called that play against the Commanders. Okay, that idiot. You got one job, Doug. You go in, you go to the ref, you said, "Hi, I am eligible. I am a fullback," and you check into the game. And then on top of that, they have a lot of people who make a lot of money there, who are up in the booth, who are on the sidelines.
Kevin Warren?
Who are the coaches. How is no one on that coaching staff looking at Doug Kramer and being like, "Hey, he didn't check in. Hey, he didn't go to the referee. Hey, he didn't even look at the referee. Thomas, call timeout. Thomas, call timeout. Someone do something. He hasn't checked in." And then they run the play, and then they get down to okay, fine. It's still first and goal on the 8-yard line. Like, you still have plenty of opportunity to go ahead and score this football. And then Amagaji, who's their 3rd-round draft pick from Yale, who was a project, who had a knee injury before he was even drafted, holds the guy blatantly while DeAndre Swift gets down to the 2-yard line. And I can't even describe to you how many times this has happened within a goal-to-goal situation. Every single time with this team. And then you got Caleb, who's despondent, the kid has no pocket presence anymore because he's gotten his ass whipped all year. So when he does have time in the pocket, he's shocked. So he pulls, like he's instinctually pulling the ball down after 2 seconds because he's so used to a dude being on his back by the time he gets to a 7-step drop. Which, by the way, why are we still 7-step dropping with the worst O-line in the league?
Not bad. Not bad at all.
It's embarrassing.
Okay,
it's embarrassing.
Yeah,
and then you got Tyreek Stevenson. I am so sick and tired of that guy. He makes an interception in the end zone, or makes an interception on 4th down, which, by the way, if he batted the ball down, they would have been 8 yards further up. But he picks up the ball. He's down 10-0, and we're getting embarrassed at this point. He runs to the other end zone and does the skull chant. You know, the last time he mocked a home crowd. Do you know when the last time he mocked a home crowd was?
There was a Hail Mary in the nation's capital.
Yeah. And then 2 quarters later, Cam Akers is barreling down to the goal line, and he makes a business decision and gives the biggest half-ass tackle attempt I've ever seen. No shoulder, no head, no knees, just hands to hands.
But God, how cool was it that Vanilla Ice performed at halftime?
Did he? How about that?
And that there were Kyle Orton jerseys spotted at US Bank Stadium last night. That was pretty cool.
I mean, Caleb can't even throw a pass further than 25 yards down the field. Wide open, Keenan Allen died down the sideline. That's happened 5 times this year, by the way. And then Roma Dunze is dropping balls in the end zone. I know the game was over.
Is coffee warm?
This whole wide receiver core, it's 3-step forwards and 10 steps back.
That coffee is pretty warm.
Yeah.
That tastes pretty good. What do you want to bet on today?
I've never had the cold this hot coffee before.
Never had hot coffee before, period, or?
No, Dundee double shot. Pretty good. I like that.
I appreciate it. But I'd like to see what we could bet on today. I feel like I should give you a chance to win back a coffee. What are the Bears playing again today?
You wish they were. I wish they weren't.
The scary thing for your quarterback. So he's having like a record season, but he looks broken and he's regressed. And a lot of it is the offensive line. And also, I think he's got to understand that this is not Sandlot football.
Yeah.
But after the game, he's starting to talk like a bear. Now, he doesn't dress like a bear. He walked in and I thought he was getting ready for an appearance on The Office last night.
I thought he was getting ready to teach a 7th grade biology class.
But that's your quarterback. You must embrace him. But he's starting to talk like a bear. He was talking like a bear after the game. Disappointing, but it's encouraging. And I'm like, whoa. I do feel for you because most Bears fans that I know are extremely passionate about your team, and you don't just live on 1985. So I do feel for you in a game that wasn't very good. I mean, the Vikings didn't play great until Vanilla Ice performed, and then they looked a lot better in the second half. That was a bad football game. This was a weird weekend in the NFL. So
It was a weird
There was
weekend
probably
in the NFL.
one good to great game. I mean, I think Buffalo-Detroit was. But
I think Buffalo-Detroit was a good game, but you knew who was going to win that game by because they
going in.
No, not going in.
Oh.
I mean, like by the start of the fourth quarter, you knew that
yeah.
Buffalo had. But I mean, Detroit makes it interesting.
Yeah, this was one of the worst weekends of watching
Agreed.
in the NFL.
Agreed.
Well, maybe one good to great game, maybe one or two, and that includes Detroit-Buffalo that was okay. And then we get the duds last night. That's why I was looking for the third game. Now, I can relate to you with your fandom because I had a crappy night in my NBA. I had Jimmy Butler probably to make himself more appealing to be traded, but we lost in overtime to Detroit. And then I stayed up.
What'd the Beam team do?
You guys haven't seen?
No, I've not. Uh-oh. I saw what Denver did.
One, I was up late because, by the way, thank you to the folks over at Foaling over on 90th and Fort. I went to a Christmas party there last night.
Oh, that's awesome.
So I get home and I see the score of the Sacramento-Denver game. And I'm like, okay, I'll watch a little bit here. Yeah, that turned into an absolute mess. There were 6 lead changes in the last minute and 4 seconds. And your guy from your team.
Lori.
No, DeMar.
DeMar.
Nice little bounce pass, backdoor, easy lay-in, gonna beat the Nuggets.
No, I thought it was.
And he fumbles the basketball. And he gags it. And the Kings lose another close game. They're 2-8 in games decided by 5 points or less.
That's shocking to me because DeMar would not let the Bulls lose those games.
Well,
the problem with DeMar was that
the Golden One Center were 6-8. The beam don't get lit very often this year.
The thing about DeMar was that he would, and that team in particular with Levine and Kobe White and Patrick Williams, they would play Oklahoma City and Denver and the Minnesota and these top teams in the league. They play them really close. They'd go at them.
Yeah.
And then they would play Charlotte or Detroit or Houston. Now Houston's now good, but Houston for a very long time was bad. They'd lose those games.
And they'd have Larry Johnson, Rick Mahorn, and Hakeem Olajuwon.
Those are the days. Robert Horry.
Rick Mahorn was a Rocket?
Maxwell.
Rick Mahorn, I know. No, I know. Rick Mahorn was a Piston is what I was going to say. That's how I remember.
I said Hakeem with the Rockets.
Oh, okay. I'm going to be honest with
Otis Thorpe played for both.
I might be the only guy in Chicago.
Otis Thorpe reference.
I might be the only guy in Chicago who believes that LeBron James is better than Michael Jordan and who loves Isaiah Thomas. Because
you stick with your Chicago guys.
Well, that's my thing. So my father grew up in that golden era of Chicago high school basketball, and his father, my grandfather, was a superintendent of Chicago high schools at the time. And so my dad grew up going to those top high school games. My father was actually friends with Mark Aguirre.
Really?
Funny enough, they were very close. They would eat lunch together and whatnot. My dad
Did he know Ray Meyer?
I don't know. But my dad did know, also friends with
Joey Meyer?
No.
Did he watch DePaul games on WGN?
Yes.
People forget they were on.
My dad is also friends with Joe Girardi because they went to Northwestern together and whatnot. So
Wow.
yeah. I love Joey G.
Matt's doing one of these days. Nicely done.
I know.
All right. Welcome in, everybody. Gary and Matt with Jimmy off and running. Dante Dowell is running away from Nebraska. What?
He's not running away from anybody. He's actually running through people. That guy doesn't know how to move left or right. It's straight into defenders.
Whoa. The body is not even cold.
If Dante had any lateral movement, he would be one of the best Big Ten running backs. The guy only knows how to run straight. I got sick and tired of watching him play the running back position.
Wow, crush the guy on the way out the door.
I'm saying he was great on the goal line. They're going to miss him on the goal line.
Hey, he's going to leave his feet and stomp on you with that comment. But Dante Dowell is in the portal. It is a little bit of a surprise, and I will say it from this standpoint, is Nebraska hasn't been real aggressive in pursuing running backs. So it's a little bit of a surprise from that standpoint. But when you think about it and what transpired with Emmett Johnson and that Dana Holgorsen gets to pick who is going to be his offensive identity, it actually makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I just hope in this case that Dante gets the money that he wants, because I'm sure that he has been contacted. and whatever agent he's using helps him out. Because unfortunately, in his game, with a lot of the stuff that you said, can't overlook, he had 12 touchdowns.
No.
I don't know if that's good or bad, that he scored 12 touchdowns. Now, he's the goal line variety guy.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of Dante Dowell types that are in the portal, so you have to make the wise decision. That's why I hope he has a good agent. The surprise to me is a little bit of this, the timing, because Nebraska hasn't been aggressive in pursuit of running backs. Now, Quan Lacey is headed to the Portal King. He's going to go to Ole Miss, and that was a guy that immediately yesterday we talked about on the show.
Yep.
So,
and I immediately got
that's where we are. The portal giveth, the portal taketh away. And last night it took Nebraska's leading rusher away, and probably solidified that Emmett Johnson will get the first crack at being the featured running back in 2025.
From what I can gather, it simply just comes down to he's not Dana's first choice.
Mm-hmm.
Emmett's
not a surprise.
Dana's first choice. Now, I do want to mention, it's not as if Dante was completely ex-nayed from the running game plan under Dana Holgorsen. 143 yards over 3 games. He had 4 touchdowns. He had 4.6 yards per carry. He very much was a part of the offense, but I think it's clear that Dante came to Nebraska with the idea that he was going to be the number 1 running back last year. And I'm sure that when he came in, that role was pitched to him and that opportunity was available for him. And now there's a major change in circumstance. And it seems like EJ now is that number 1 running back. I'm surprised about the timing too. I was sitting with a friend. I immediately go, I hope he's got a deal like right now. Like I hope he commits quickly because it's really late in the game. I mean, we're getting where it's kind of late in the game to start entering the transfer portal.
Like I said, there's a lot of Dante Dowell types that are in the portal. Now, I wonder if it's all to this, because I think he probably, the EJ situation, whether it be Emmett Johnson or EJ Barthel.
Sure.
I mean, we got to have a conversation about EJ Barthel. I know he interviewed for a job elsewhere last year, but post-bowl game is going to be very interesting around here.
You said he was on a 2-year deal, and so is Ed Foley. And those are 2 guys.
I don't think hey, by the way, I don't think Ed Foley's going anywhere.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I think that would be a major mistake. What has he done? What has the special teams unit accomplished under his tutelage?
Listen to the tone of Rhule talking about special teams this year and the challenges that they had with guys that were available or not available.
It's 3.
He's going down the path either to be Mr. Professional Courtesy or to make a case that everything is going to be fine, or make a case that all of the special teams strategy outside of personnel is what I like to do. But back to running backs.
Well, I just want to say this real quick. I want to get this out there. There are already people losing trust in Rhule and his current tenure here at Nebraska.
I know you said that the other day. You got people on edge. You said players and people and fans.
You would get more. You would get more
boosters.
People. You would get more people joining
trash compactors
the
that work in
losing
Lincoln.
the trust train. Hey, I mean, I said a lot of the people said what I said was an echo chamber and that they already knew what I was talking about. I mean, it's the truth. I mean, you're getting to the point now where you're 11-13. They're an 11-13 football program with a lot of guys who are young, who you don't really have. You have Dylan Raiola, who had a fine year, but a lot of these guys who you think are going to be superstars, a lot of these guys who you think are going to be key contributors on next year's team, is all a hypothetical. It's all potential. What true superstar are they bringing back to the fold next year? What true draft pick are they bringing back to this team next year? It's Cam Lenhart, maybe. He might be a top guy. Raiola might be a top guy. Emmett Johnson might be a top guy. Keona Davis might be a top guy. Who's playing linebacker? Vincent Shavers might be a top. Willis McGahee, he might be. It's all mights. We're all maybes. We're all hypotheticals here. And this is supposed to be the big year 3 jump. So you're looking at, don't drink the Kool-Aid. Don't drink the Kool-Aid. It's all ifs, buts, and nuts. I'm just saying.
I'm just listening to you.
So back to Ed Foley. If he sticks around, there's going to be a lot of people, including myself, who's going to lose even more trust in this process, because for 2 years they've handled one of the worst special teams unit, top to bottom, in 2 years in a row.
Yeah, you're speaking to the choir. I mean, there's repeating stuff that we've seen all season long, but Just telling you, there's a tone that is a little bit different when Ed Foley's name comes up here in the last 2 weeks. I would be surprised if there was. I would be shocked if there was not a movement. But it's almost setting up to, hey, you know what? Had to deal with Tristan going down and blah 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 blah. But back to
would you get
the
a
running
portal?
back room.
Would you get a portal running back? Do you trust Quinnen and EJ? Quinton Ives.
Quentin Ives.
Quinton Ives.
No, I'm not a Quentin Ives fan.
Okay.
I think that's an awkward. That's a EJ Barthel. Put him on the roster. I like Mekhi Nelson better than Quentin Ives.
Okay.
But you have Parker, who is coming. But you also have a shift in philosophy when it comes to running backs. So this is where you have the head coach of the offense. What did Matt Rhule say for 2 years in the Big Ten? Wants a thick running back. He likes the Gabe Irvins. He likes the Dante Dowdells. Now what are we going to do in year 3? Now we get thick running backs. They're going to be, I wouldn't call them scat backs, but they're kind of like the size and ability of an Emmett Johnson. But good luck to Dowdell. He made a 60-yard run look like into a 20-yard run. So I hope he has good agents. I hope he has a plan, and this is what he wants to do. And if he wants to go chase the bag, that's fine. I'm sure that the EJ situation really impacted him, but I also think something else. And this is kind of interesting. This is a discussion down the road when the chairs stop moving. Guys that have left Nebraska to jump into the portal have had some pretty good landing spots.
I was about to say.
So Bayor went to Mizzou. You've got Ole Miss on there. Florida State's going to be on there. I mean,
LSU's on there.
So
and then Bork.
So yeah, I mean, there's and whatever happens with him, he's got a potential to have a really good landing spot. So if you're maybe feeling like you're edged out, but you're a good player, would have value to someone else, and you're looking at your former teammates that have ended up in good spots, aren't you thinking, hey, I might be able to fall up from Nebraska if I go into the portal?
Well, I think another thing too is that the portal is really just random, though, in terms of timing and opportunity. It only takes one team, right? In every sport, it only takes one team to give you the deal that you want. Look at a guy like Phoenix Jackson. He was a Fresno State dude. He wasn't even a starter. He had like 49 tackles over at Fresno State. He was supposed to make a couple of visits, and then Auburn just gives him the bag, and he goes, "Okay, I'll be a Tiger."
Oh, you're absolutely right. Hey,
right? It's random.
Backup guys, I'd put myself in the portal if I played and I have good tape.
Absolutely,
because look at. There's an offensive tackle from Nevada. Now, Isaiah World is a good player. I mean, he's a monster. He's 6'8", 320, didn't give up a sack in 854 snaps. So he's down to Texas A&M, Oregon, and Nebraska. Put your name into the portal. Go get the bag, because he's a quote-unquote $1 million guy that is out there. And then there are FCS guys who, Nebraska's going to have a Sam Houston defensive lineman. I mean, why not put your name out there to see what your value is? You have to be careful, though, because if you do and it doesn't work out, you can't. Most places you can't come back.
Well, the thing is, too, is that
door goes.
You don't think guys like EJ, guys like Keona Davis kind of knew. Obviously, their heart wasn't totally away from the Nebraska football program, considering the fact that they came back. They knew what they were doing. Yep. They knew that they had leverage not only with the team that we're at, but the other teams that were looking at them and whatnot. I'm pretty sure World, though, like that's a guy that we're calling a $1 million tackle, but his PFF grade, and I know PFF isn't everything, okay? But is 68 overall.
He didn't get the memo. We don't sit with PFF on the show.
Oh, we don't do
continue on.
We don't do PFF on the show.
It's hit or miss.
Analytics tell you what you want. Like they support what you want.
Yes,
to say.
I can spin any stat into anything.
Absolutely. But you look at a guy like he's $1 million tackle, is what you just said, and his PFF grade isn't necessarily the one that you would see from a dominant guy who costs 7 figures, considering the fact that he's not coming. It's not coming from Michigan or Ohio State or one of these top programs. He's coming from Nevada, where, look, I think we just have to put the elephant in the room. Like, teams that Nevada's playing are much worse than the teams that Nebraska are playing. just plain and simple, right? So still, I don't think, like, we call this a market, the transfer portal market. I don't even think there's a market right now. There's just way too much going on and way too much money flailing about and just inconsistencies from guys who are getting picked up to guys who aren't getting picked up, where it's just like, I don't think there's an actual circular, like, this guy gets this and this guy gets that. Like, Bryce Underwood is a high school kid who got $10 million. No other school at this point has offered anyone that type of money. And the reaction wasn't around the college football, oh, he reset the market. No one was acting like they reset the market.
Individual.
It's individual. So it's weird.
Well, because you could also tell this. Like, and so the portal, I don't know. There's not many guys this year that are like game changers that will elevate you singly to playing in the playoff if you're not in the playoff. And there's just not. There's a quality group of hodgepodge players. But from the school perspective, you can tell, when it comes to portaling and the acquiring of transfers, you can tell which programs are well run and which ones are not.
Yeah.
Because there is the thing about acquiring talent and then building a team.
Oh my God.
So I think Nebraska has made a little bit of a transition here. And you know, when you're in year one and you're trying to figure things out, and even in year two, they kind of went half and half. Is you acquire talent, but I can tell the teams that are better because, one, they don't have a lot of holes that they have to fill because they've done a good job in high school recruiting and developing and retaining. But then if they need a guy in free agency, they go and get him. So that's building a team. That tells me a lot about your program. Instead of programs that are just acquiring talent and you go, Jesus, they have 6 running backs and they just got 1 out of the portal. Where is he going to play?
Yeah. Well, I think Mizzou is the best example of that. But it's not just Mizzou acquiring talent out of the portal. It's Mizzou acquiring talent out of high school as well.
Mizzou's problem is I read up a little bit on Quan Lacey's issue last night. And again, he is slated to go to Mississippi to play for the Portal King. Is their plan for redshirting it makes no sense.
I don't even think it's a plan.
Like they don't have a plan. That's right. And you've got guys that are like, you just burned my red shirt, or I should have played and you redshirted me. It's all over the map, and thus they're going to get burned by kids that are like, man, you screwed me. I'm not going to let that happen again. There's no guarantee here. Yeah, I think Mizzou does a good job of acquiring talent, and that's what they want to do. They just want to have talent.
I think
they just want to have a roster that like looks like an SEC roster, but doesn't play like an SEC roster.
I think that the ideal transfer portal plan lies somewhere in between of what Nebraska was doing last year and what Colorado is doing. It's not the way you absolutely should not be going out, flipping your roster every single year, getting 40 to 50 guys in the portal. But I don't think.
By the way, they got the number one defensive lineman in the country in the portal.
The way that Nebraska was doing it last year, though, only getting a couple of guys, keeping the team fully together, being very selective. Look, you're at a point right now in Nebraska where, the Bears said it earlier this year. It's going to be hard to make this team. It shouldn't have been hard to make the Bears, right? Same thing with Nebraska. Nebraska's got talent.
Can I stop you real quick?
Go ahead.
Did your GM really say in 21 that we're going to take the NFC North and not give it back?
Yeah.
Okay, just checking.
I really believed him too when he said that. Anyway, regardless, Nebraska's at the point where they still need guys. Like they can't, this program still can't be selective about the talent that they're bringing in, because you talk about acquiring talent and building a team. I think that you need to build a team, but there's nothing wrong with taking some shots in the dark and being like, all right, this guy's talented. We don't really know where he fits yet within all of this, within our team, within our structure. But at the same time, when we bring him in, he'll be the 3rd most talented guy on our roster. He'll be the 4th most talented guy on our roster. It's then our job, it would be Nebraska football's job, to then go and find the best spot for that guy to play, which is what Rhule claims that he does best.
But you have to be careful here because Nebraska's still in a situation, and they're probably still a ways away. They don't choose you, and you don't choose them.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it's we can say Nebraska's in the Final Three for an offensive tackle that would walk in the door and start, and we've been down that road before in the last couple of years, and it might cost you a lot in the NIL, and that's what the market is going for. But it's not like Nebraska has something over Oregon and Texas A&M, both places which have probably more money than Nebraska.
Yeah.
So it's great that you're in the Final Three, but it's not like we're the favorite in the Final Three because of what you're up against. That's where just win, baby. Just win.
Well, this is what you talked.
Just bring Al Davis in and let's just win, baby.
You talked about yesterday. You want Nebraska to win a recruiting battle where they don't necessarily have this inside track. This Isaiah Worlds.
That would be a good one.
This is it.
All right, coming up on the show, Sam McEwen's going to join us in less than an hour. Brian Christopherson as well. Our final week on the air before the Pinstripe Bowl, and you can feel the excitement. People are so excited to go to New York City. Are more people excited to go to Arrowhead for the opener next year than the Pinstripe Bowl?
Ooh. That's a great question.
Yes. Also, you know what? I got my code. I'm ready to order tickets today. If anybody'd like to slide me some greenbacks, I could just load up on tickets for everyone.
What is this? The Eras tour?
I think I should be able to get in okay today. I'm telling you, it's going to be $50 for parking. And if you want to sit in the 300 level with fees, it's going to be over 100. Jimmy, I'm looking at the price structure. I think it's very similar to the KU games at Arrowhead.
It's not good.
It's the fees are pretty high.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I will be glad to never see that stadium again next football season.
What would your prediction be? Will this event get lower on the open market, or will it get exponentially higher on the open market?
That's a good question, but I think it's kind of tough because we have a long runway to hype this up and to sell tickets. All I know is that Cincinnati thinks they can make anywhere from, because they get 75% of the ticket sales because it's Cincinnati's home game.
Yeah.
They think they'll make anywhere from $2.5 million to $4 million off this game.
Good for them.
They know what they're doing.
Hey, they're a Power 5 program now. Power 4 program now.
They're not a serious program that they basically sold one of their home games to Nebraska.
Exactly.
That's not a serious
it's like Oklahoma
Power 5
State
program.
in 98.
But they need the money.
You
got to do what you got to do, man, to keep the lights on.
I mean, I almost think it would have been better for Nebraska to throw in an extra $1 million and turn this into a home game.
Yeah, why not? I mean, you're basically already.
Now that would have been the death knell of Cincinnati football. You'd be like, we not only sold a home game to a neutral site game to another neutral site game, but we sold it to Nebraska. Nebraska tried to buy out. So they were never supposed to go to Hattiesburg. Nebraska tried to buy that game out and make it a home game about 20 plus years ago.
Okay.
I remember
Then
this.
they tried to convince Southern Miss to move the game to Arrowhead because when Oklahoma State in 98 moved the game to Arrowhead, they got $1.3 million to move it out of Stillwater to Arrowhead, and it was still an Oklahoma State home game. I think this will be so. Oklahoma wore home uniforms in the 2006 Big 12 championship games. This is Cincinnati's home game, so Nebraska will always wear white at Arrowhead, or have worn white in the first three. So
there you go.
Cincinnati's going to make some money.
Good for them.
They're going to be able to buy some basketball players.
Take your grill. Big grill, big tailgate.
All right, that's the lineup brought to you by the Rooferys at John Higgins. Weather Guard, off and run. Lots to discuss. More on Dante Dowell, the game in Cincinnati. And also, my quarterback made it to town yesterday, and he thought he was in Lincoln while he was driving by the Chuck.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I saw that. That was good. That was a great Connor Happer tweet. Elite Connor Happer tweet.
You know what? I mean, people say that Lincoln is just like Omaha.
As someone who's been here for a week, I don't think it is.
I will tell you, for the good or the bad.
I like Omaha a lot. I mean, I've been here very briefly, but I like it.
To the chodes in the back.
I like it.
A lot of people in this building live in Lincoln, commute to Omaha.
I'm going to tell you right now, I don't know how Bishop does it. I've been dying doing this.
You can ask him an overreaction next weekend.
Why don't you ride the train? Hal Dobb, bullet train between Omaha and Lincoln. Great idea.
I would love that. I like riding the train. I'm a train guy.
You seem like a train guy.
Yeah.
More than a bus guy.
I knew an insult was coming.
No, why would you be a train instead of a bus?
I took the bus KLIN for 6 months.
In Lincoln?
Yeah.
Star Tran?
Yeah. Take over by the Golds, the old Golds building, all the way down to 48th and O.
Wow. How many times did you get robbed in Crime Town?
I didn't get
3 or 4?
robbed, but there were some weird interactions that happened from time to time.
First time I moved to Omaha, I jumped on the bus just to see the city.
Yeah.
That was a great experience.
Why not?
All right. Maybe we'll bring back Megabus and you can go home to Chicago. We got to go to a break. It's Gary and Matt on 1620 The Zone. You know what the trip to Kansas City is going to be like for Nebraska fans next year? On a Thursday, primetime game on Fox, 7 o'clock kickoff, Nebraska and Cincinnati, and the amount of Nebraska fans that will travel down Interstate 29 or come from far away, or right there in Kansas City with the KC Huskers.
We'll have a barbecue list for you later on.
If you know, you know. I know there were people on Twitter last night were sharing places. Let's be thinking outside of the box.
Right.
Yeah.
This is why we give you a list.
Yes. But Nebraska will get to experience.
Are you gatekeeping Kansas City barbecue?
No, but it's always the same. There are some lesser known that are bangers.
Yeah.
That nobody ever mentions. They're like all the staples that'll have long waits and like if you're a tourist, go to this one.
Yeah.
Well, if you've been in Kansas City and you know, you steer to some
other ones that are really, really good.
I feel like you guys, people would get mad at you, though, if you gave up the secret spots that no one else is going to go to that would be quick waits.
We got a long time to that game. We can
Fair
wait.
enough.
But Nebraska fans are going to feel like what it is like for Georgia fans to go to games in Atlanta. You know how whenever they have the SEC championship game or a neutral site game, all the Georgia fans that are not only in the state, but your quick drive from Athens, that's what it's going to be like for Nebraska fans going to the game at Arrowhead. Will this be and this is crazy, but welcome to the Big Ten. Will this be the shortest drive for Nebraska fans to an away game since K-State in 2010?
Is what Iowa City is 3.5, 4?
4.5. It's got to be. The K-State game in 2010, the Thursday night game, I think is the shortest trip for a Nebraska fan until the game in Kansas City.
Ames? How far is Ames?
I don't think it played. I don't think it played at Iowa State in 2010.
They did.
They did.
They did.
Manhattan's still closer than Ames.
Okay, that's the only other place that I could think of that. Yeah. Lawrence, how far is Lawrence, Jimmy?
3 hours, 2:40 the way I drive.
There are going to be a lot of people at the game. It's going to be sold out, and I would say there's going to be 70,000 Nebraska fans. It's going to be one of those events. I think you'll have a Midwestern effect. I think a lot of people in the Midwest, when they see something that costs a lot of money, they go, ugh. I just think that's the Midwest is always no. When it comes to making big financial decisions, and I have this too, my first reaction is absolutely not. That's not happening.
But
I don't
used to paying these prices to go see sporting events.
You're
$100 to get into the game. Sitting upstairs.
I like Matt's idea with the guys.
It's $100 with fees.
Well, so
parking is $50. That's non-negotiable.
Here's what I think will happen. You'll get a lot of meh. You'll get a lot of boom. You'll get a lot of first sales. Then you're gonna get a lot of meh, and then everyone's gonna start looking around and being like, oh, okay,
we could make a weekend out of it.
Like John's going and Tim's going, and hey, Stacy, John's bringing his wife Margaret. Like we should, come
Shout
with. Let's bring the kids, and then it snowballs into this effect to the point. It happened to Colorado a little bit. Like the Colorado ticket prices got pretty cheap, not cheap, but they got pretty far down on the pay list, like maybe a month and a half before the game, and then you're getting weeks and weeks closer, and you could see the snowball of people like, all right, they're going, I got to go, this and that. I think the same thing will happen there. What I'm doing, and Jimmy mentioned it off air, I told you, my buddies and I are going. We're doing 5 guys in one car. We're going to buy the parking pass, and we're going to go ahead and just pay $10 each for it. We'll probably buy our tickets in the summer. I don't think we're going to buy them when they come out in the next week. The next couple of days.
You guys can do an actual tailgate in a parking lot. There is something to be said about that.
Just don't text me and go, you know what? We got the hotel room. It's right across the street from the stadium.
5 guys, 1 bed.
I'm like, Jesus, you better take some. I got some
Kevlar.
I got some military weapons that you could bring to be safe.
Oh, that area is. Well, I don't know. So, I'm not from there. I just moved to this part of the country.
We had that discussion last
Johnson County's your friend.
But here's there's a downside of when it was first discussed. One, if you're the football program, you're like, come on, this is our home game, but it's essentially a road game a long way away from our campus. The athletic department is like, we're going to make $2.5 million to $4 million off of Nebraska. We're getting 75% of the sales. This is great for our athletic department. Football program's going, I mean, are we going to be serious about being in the Big 12?
Sure.
But
you're talking from Cincinnati's perspective.
At Indy, like comparison to stadium, and Arrowhead's my spot.
Indy is
there's
so
not
nice.
even there's not even close. Lucas Oil Stadium is ideal and is great. And there are parts of Arrowhead that look like they're 30, 40 plus years old. So there's the downside of that. Also the thing, and this will just be reiterated when you go to a big event at Arrowhead, whether it be a Chiefs game, this game, Taylor Swift, any other concert that goes on there, is why the Chiefs want to have the Royals move so they can knock down the K and build a Chiefs town or move somewhere where you can have development. In Indianapolis, what is so great, and that's why Indianapolis hosts so many events, is you're within walking distance of the hotels, the restaurants, the entertainment district. In Kansas City, you just drive to a gigantic parking lot, go banger on the tailgate, and then you walk into the stadium, and then you have to sit in traffic and drive, either go back downtown to Power and Light, go to the plaza, or go somewhere else. That's the downside of Kansas City. So when they were going to Indianapolis, I'm like, I love Lucas Oil. That's a great stadium. I'm not disappointed they're going to Kansas City, but there's a difference in the type of stadium that this game would have been played in.
I was way more likely to go to the Indy game than I am to the Kansas City game.
Really?
Well,
you'll have fun in Kansas City.
Well, because I
like to travel.
I love to travel. I've been around Lucas Oil Stadium a lot. I've stayed in those hotels for various reasons, but I've never been in there. All I've ever heard is how great it is.
Yeah.
And like, there's some people who would claim that is the best Midwestern stadium. Maybe
US
US
Bank
Bank.
State. Yeah,
US
US
Bank
Bank
is
is
the
pretty
only
close.
one that kind of competes with it. I would have loved to have gone to that game. Also, too, my family, I'm about 2 hours away from there, so I would have just stayed with my folks and then driven over there. I'm going to go.
Economical.
I've always wanted to go to Arrowhead. It's a historic stadium that gets very, very loud. And
loudest in the NFL.
I think for my generation,
Pulled pork
too,
mac and cheese is where it's at, by the way, at the concession stand.
Does that make you loud?
No, but it makes you happy.
For my generation as well, there have been so many big games played at Arrowhead Stadium that I've watched that there's kind of this aura now for me around the stadium that it's like just a really cool spot, and it's a tough place to play for an away team. And I feel like for someone who went to the University of Nebraska, it would be a very, very cool experience to have that atmosphere directed toward my team in that stadium.
Man, he would have loved the Big 12.
I would have loved the Big
real
12.
Big
I was
12.
born to be a Big 12
Big
broadcaster.
That's how we first met.
I know.
I had to explain to young
There's a
Matt,
lot-
the
I
Big
know.
12, who was in the Big 12.
Still got my real T-shirt for Media Day in 05.
That was the start of Matt learning about college football.
No.
I'm going to take credit for it.
You
drive to
still
road
to this
games.
day are my teacher about college football. There's still a lot that I have to learn that I learned from you, that, this is a journey for all of us. And I try and bring my young and expertise to it, or whatever the heck you called it. But yeah, I'm going to the game. I'm excited for it. It's going to be a pain in the ass to get there. And it's going to be a pain. The whole
How's it gonna be a
travel
pain to get there.
It's pretty easy.
I'm talking about when you're from the game to the game. I'm not talking about from Lincoln to Kansas City. I mean, like going to the actual game and then leaving the actual game. Seems like it'll be a pain in the ass. But other than that,
435 is your friend.
Yeah. What time? 4:35.
Jimmy spent this whole fall at Arrowhead with KU.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
I'll give
Did
you the
go
gate to go
every
into.
game?
Your season ticket holder
Really?
for KU football.
I love
Wow,
ball.
Jim. Good for you.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
You should hear about my time with the Spurs.
What season tickets should I'm buying season tickets. I just don't know what season tickets could buy in Nebraska. Should I get Creighton season tickets? Should I get UNL season tickets? Should I get
Listeners? Commenters?
I was thinking about getting Omaha Maverick hockey season tickets.
You would have fun. Shout out my drum guys.
Like, what is the best? Because in my opinion, over in Chicago, the best bang for your buck and the best sporting event to go to is Chicago Blackhawks games, to go to hockey games, because the tickets are cheaper, and the United Center is a great stadium, and they have really good food, and they've really invested money into that facility, because Jerry refuses to invest money in anywhere else other than like the concession stands, because he's fat.
He is a portly fella.
But
why are we using that against him?
I can't stand him.
There's a lot of successful people.
I will
that
never
are
say
fat.
anything
Shout out
nice
Mark
about Jerry
Mangino.
Reinscourt. What is the best
07
bang?
Orange Bowl
What's
bang.
the best bang for your buck? What's the best sporting event to go to? Season tickets. If you told me it was Nebraska basketball at PBA, I'd buy that, because every time I go to PBA over the last 2 years,
like
I've
a
had
good
an
time.
absolute blast. And you're in a great spot in the state, in the Haymarket.
I'll
Is
take
this
a
too
stab at it. I'd say
controversial of a-
Omaha hockey.
No. I have football and basketball season tickets in Lincoln.
We're encompassing Lincoln in this.
Hockey would probably season tickets to Omaha hockey at Baxter Arena would be your bang for your buck.
Okay,
it's a fun time. Good.
I
people
love hockey.
Too.
I mean, all right. That's what I'm going to do. Listen, if listeners tweet at me at Matt McMedia, go ahead, tell me what's the best season tickets for me to go and get.
John writes in to finish the hour. He goes, blow up Memorial. He goes, he wishes Nebraska would play all their home games in Kansas City one year and blow up Memorial Stadium. And while they're at it, they can blow up Wrigley.
Wow.
Well,
screw you.
Yeah, he was good until he had Can, and then there was blow up Wrigley. Well, it's okay. That's okay.
Never
You,
blow up
you know what? Maybe I'll take you to go watch Kyle Tucker play this year. Ideally, you would destroy Memorial Stadium. You would sell that land to the university, and you would find a place to build a new Memorial Stadium, because that would make more sense. But you cannot do that, and it would take longer than a year to build a 76,000+ seat stadium.
We going to a Wrigley game this year? You and I
together?
Yeah,
I have to see. It's I have my own idiosyncrasies when I go to a game at Wrigley.
How about we send him with Vers on his opening day trip? That would be great content. Matt and Vers.
I would love to go through your, because I also do have my own as well that I must check off when I go to Cubs. I would love to go with someone else and experience.
If I
that.
take somebody to Wrigley and the Cubs lose, you're never going back with me.
That's how I am.
Well,
with the
we're going.
Spurs.
We'd probably just go to the hotel, or go to wherever we're staying.
All right. Sam McEwen's coming up in about 30 minutes on Gary and Matt in 1620 The Zone. All right, welcome back in. Hour number 2 of Gary and Matt on 1620 The Zone, on the app, the stream, wherever you can get us. Good morning, everybody. Unfortunate news, though, kind of sad news in the high school sports world. 2 absolute legends passed away recently right here in Omaha in Bellevue. One of the OGs of Bellevue High, Bellevue East, Bill James, incredible coaching career, passed away. And then Paul Forch, who was one of the first high school coaches I met when I started doing high school games in Lincoln. He was the original head coach at Lincoln East before Ed McFerrin took over and won 450-plus games, couple of state titles.
Wow.
Both of those gentlemen passed away. So I think I saw Stu's going to have a tribute to him. But there was, when I first started in Lincoln, and this was well before you were born, doing high school, because KLIN used to do high school.
Yeah.
Like we had a stretch. Like KLIN has never been as good as it was when I was there and Bishop was there and Jim Rose was there and John Baylor was there.
I've heard the tapes. I'm gonna be honest with you. They're still around.
I mean, it was incredible.
It was great stuff.
We had that amount of talent under one building in Lincoln.
Absolutely.
But we used to do high school games. And so when I first started doing high school games, I didn't know anything about the Lincoln. You know, I knew football. So, of course, Chuck Mazursky at Lincoln Southeast and Lincoln and Lee Zenick at Lincoln East. But in basketball, it was known as a basketball town because Pershing Auditorium was still standing.
Yeah.
And they'd play the city games at Pershing Auditorium, and it was always sold out. And it was like a great event. But they had legendary. I mean, Wally was at Lincoln Southeast. Paul was at Lincoln East. Aldi Johnson. I mean, it was like the legends, all like in the High School Hall of Fame. So that was sad to hear that Bill James, who has had an incredible coaching career at Bellevue East, and Paul Forch passed away. So I'm looking forward to seeing what Stu puts out.
No, rest in peace, and 2 legends, 2 giants in the high school community, and wish those schools nothing but the best, and condolences to the families.
Are we on Memphis or are we on West Virginia tonight? Scooters Frisco Bowl.
Country Roads. I should have worn my shirt today. My
wanna make a bet?
Morgantown Brewery. Oh, now he wants to bet with me.
Who are you
There's
on?
your game.
Who are you on? I like Memphis.
Memphis 4.5. West Virginia is on to the Rich Rod era.
They didn't have a team to play tonight. That was my first thinking.
Yeah, Memphis had a pretty decent year. And
Memphis until late in the year when they got beat by Tulane and that ended their chances to win that conference. They've had a good year. That's Memphis is a good stepping stone.
I was gonna say
Mike Norvell used that.
Yeah. It's one of those jobs where didn't another guy before Norvell,
Scott Satterfield.
Yes,
wasn't he there?
That was.
And now he was at Cincinnati.
I was going through wiki pages last night.
Or did he go to Louisville?
Who's Scott Satterfield? I can pull that up right now.
Not related to
No.
Marcus
Are they cousins though? Maybe.
No, Satterfield never coached at Memphis. What the hell was I thinking? He went straight.
There
from
was
App
another
State
one
to,
before.
Norvell was at Memphis.
Wasn't there another one before?
Well, Mike Norvell and Scott Frost were going head to head, and then Frost went to Nebraska, and Norvell ended up at Florida State.
Regardless, that's an area of the country that, like Tennessee, like that's. I mean, they got really good athletes, and you're in a decent part of the country in terms of high school recruits and talent around that area. I mean, it's a little bit like UCF, where you understand that it is a smaller program, but there is enough talent and speed out there to grab some of these guys in that area. And if you have good coaching, you can put together a really solid roster and compete.
Did you see they tore down part of the Liberty Bowl? They're redoing the Liberty Bowl where you were a couple years ago.
I was. Hopefully they left the porta potties that were plentiful there in the concourse, because you could just go right there and not miss a play. It was great.
Memphis 4.5-point favorite tonight in the Scooters Frisco Bowl. Where that Scooters mascot, the coffee mascot, I'm sure will be on the sideline.
You got to think that Ryan Silverfield is probably up for a head coaching job, if not at the end of this year, next year.
They dump you with coffee.
What jobs are open?
Win.
Everything's.
I don't think.
Very few
I
jobs that were
mean,
open
Wake
this year.
Forest.
He might be. They go low key. Like Wake Forest has had a nice little run of coaches with Dave Clawson stepping down yesterday. But Jim Grobe to Dave Clawson, that's essentially been 2 decades. Like good people. Not super flashy, just really good, solid football coaches at a program that, if they win 8 games, you're pretty happy. And you might jump up and win 9, compete for attention in the ACC.
It's one of those programs it's a little bit like these smaller schools with decent academics where there's not a lot of expectations, and if you can just consistently pump out a product that people will watch, right? Wake Forest football has not been a bad. Now, look, they've been 4-8 the last 2 seasons, so you could argue they've been a bad watch the last 2 years. But under Clawson, and then same thing with Grobe, like they were a watchable team. You could watch them play in the ACC. If you can make a product of that, you'll be there for a very, very long time. I mean, there's some of these jobs that, yeah, are they as big as your Ohio States and Michigans and whatnot? No, but the bar is low to the point where if you can just consistently get to 7-8 wins a year, that you're going to have a lot of. It's why Pat Fitzgerald was at Northwestern for such a very long. He was offered the Packers job before LaFleur and said no, because now he's a Bears fan. He hates the Packers. He didn't want to coach them, but because he knew that he could have a job at Northwestern forever until he made those really big mistakes. Okay, I want to throw something out at you.
All right.
Can you tell me the 5 head coaches who've had NFL head coaching experience before coaching in college football?
Before coaching in college football, like as a head coach?
Well,
like Pete Carroll?
No, not before.
Is Pete Carroll on this
just
list?
the five NFL current college
NFL
football coaches. So there's 5. I've done this so terribly. There are currently 5 college football coaches in Power 4 schools that have had NFL head coaching experience.
Okay.
There's 5 of them. Can you name those 5?
Matt Rhule.
Matt Rhule's 1.
Hold on here. Now I got to go through my head in the conferences.
It's going to be a little tough, too, because there's some that weren't.
So we're talking Power 4.
Power 4.
Power 4 schools.
I found 5. Jimmy?
What's that?
5 Power 4 college football coaches who have NFL head coaching experience. Matt Rhule's one of them.
Okay.
One of them just got hired a couple of days ago.
All right, so Belichick is off.
Yeah.
So there's our 2 of our 5.
Damn, you think I could get 1 here?
One of them you won't get. 2 of them you're going to hit your head if I tell you. I'll give you another hint. One's in the SEC, one's in the ACC, one's in the Big Ten.
Okay, so 3 of the 5, because I'm going to throw Bill O'Brien in there.
Yeah.
And you said...
So you got one in the Big Ten and one in the SEC.
That has coached in the NFL and they've come back to college football.
Yes.
I'm going to hit my head.
Hold on. No. We're not done yet.
You got the tough one and you got the hit the head.
So we're missing the SEC and Pac-12?
Big Ten. There's no more Pac-12.
That's my problem is I'm going by leagues, but these
There's
leagues are so
no more
big
Pac.
now that
Head coach in the NFL.
And now head coach Power 5 college football.
Power 4.
Power 4. I'm never going to get over that.
none of us will. It's okay. It's
So Lane
Schiano.
Kiffin.
Hey, both
So
of you.
Lane
All right.
Kiffin, Schiano, Bill O'Brien, Matt Rhule, and Bill Belichick.
There you go. Those are your 5. So Clawson is leaving Wake Forest, and the ESPN article compared it to Jay Wright, compared it to Tony Bennett. It's just time. He's moving on.
Mm-hmm.
This just isn't the college football that he wants to coach in, right? We've seen this happen over the last couple of years.
I forget Lane Kiffin.
And
That's so short.
I think that
former Raiders.
whatever
great.
idea you have about college coaches, there's no such thing as college coaches anymore because this isn't college football. We're calling it college football because that's what it was, but it's morphed into something that I don't even think we have a name for yet. Okay, what we're currently doing with the transfer portal, with NIL, with whatnot. You have 5 current NFL or 5 current Power 5 coaches who came from the NFL. I think in the next 10 years, that number will double. I think in the next 5 to 10 years, we will have 5 more coaches in college football, in the Power 4, who will have NFL head coaching experience.
So they don't want to be in the NFL, so they come to NFL
because
Light?
Exactly.
Okay. I don't know, man, because I think
could see the opposite.
I don't see Dave Clawson being part of this discussion because it's his decision. And if you're saying Jay Wright, because Jay Wright's retired, he's not coming back.
Exactly.
He had a chance to go to the NBA, not. Tony Bennett's not coming back. Chris Peterson is the college football kind of equivalent where, I mean, as the landscape changes.
Well, Saban did the same thing too.
But so Saban is, all of these guys are along the same way. And these are big name guys. I don't know that the NFL guys go, man, it'd be a lot easier in college. Because it's okay. Dave Clawson said it simply felt like it was time. I mean, the timing might be a little off after signing day and the portal's wide open. I don't know, man. I think coaching is getting more difficult regardless of level. And there will always be coaches, but how many coaches want to stay in it for a long time? How many Kirk Ferentzes are going to be out there? Guys that are coaching into their late 60s and their early 70s. The Mac Browns that say, the game has passed me by. I mean, you got to reinvent.
That'll be more rare.
You got to reinvent yourself. I think like Lincoln Riley. We were thinking Lincoln Riley will go to the NFL. Marcus Freeman probably had an eye on the NFL. He's still a young guy, but he's also had a great job at Notre Dame.
Got a hell of a job.
So I don't know that. I don't
so
know
here's
that NFL guys are going to come down to college and go, man, this is the place.
But
for
I
me.
don't. But wait. I want to stop.
Better to be a head coach in the NFL than in college.
Let me fix your wording. You said come down. I don't think it's coming down anymore. I think it's coming over because Bill Belichick went to UNC. And we were all kind of sitting here really confused as to why it happened. But when you broke it down, you saw, whoa, he's got a general manager. Oh, he's got an NIL salary cap. Oh, he's going out and he's buying players, right? And so we're calling this NFL light. So I think that there are college programs who are looking and saying, well, look, there are some of these coaches out there that have a lot of college football experience, but this is closer to the NFL now than it is to what college football used to be. And so it might be more advantageous to go out and get a guy who's been in the trenches in the NFL to go and coach your college team. And I think that with an NFL coach looking at these opportunities, right, these colleges have a lot of money. They can pay them a lot of money to come and be their coaches. And they can say, well, look, maybe it's going to be really hard for me to have another stint as an NFL head coach. It's going to be really hard for me to get one of these 32 jobs when there's, in fact, 60, 65 jobs open in Power 4 football. These jobs with a lot of money that are very similar to the coaching style and the general managerial style of the NFL, that could be a place or an environment that they can succeed in.
Now, they're paid pretty well in the NFL.
They are paid pretty well in the NFL, but they're paid pretty well in college football too. I mean, I know that there's a difference. There's a major difference between being the coach at Wake Forest and being the coach at Ohio State, but it's not like you're getting crumbs. You're still getting a couple $1 million. There are guys who have warmed out their welcome in the NFL. You can argue Bill Belichick outwarmed his welcome in the NFL.
I think Bill Belichick took the job at North Carolina because the NFL didn't want him anymore.
Exactly.
It's not like he pursued North Carolina. He wanted leverage, and the NFL said, nah, we don't want you anymore. But he wanted to coach, so he's in college. I don't know that he goes, man, I wanted to go to college.
Didn't he set up his program,
Patriots were stepping stone for him.
Didn't he set up his program, though, like you would set up an NFL program? He's got a salary cap. He's got a general manager. He's going to go and get his guys. It's going to be –
I don't think he pursued college. Now, you're right. College programs are starting to set up the hierarchy like the NFL where they do have a general manager. But in Belichick's case, I don't think he said, man, I can't take it in the NFL. I got to go to college.
But I don't think this is necessarily – we're focusing in on Bill Belichick right here, but I'm looking at the macro point of view of just colleges saying, look, are we going to go and get a guy who's been in college football for 25 years who – themselves are currently adapting and adjusting to this new era of college football? Or are we going to go and get an NFL head coach who there is no adapting? They've done this. This is what it's been like. They've been coaching players that make a lot of money.
Do you think, though, I don't know, man, it's everybody that is a head coach in the NFL, that's a great job. That's a great job. That there's going to be a college that is going to pluck a good NFL head coach.
Well, I don't know if it'll be necessarily plucking as much as it is you get bagged by the NFL and then you're looking to get back into the league, and then a college coaching, like a guy that I thought of immediately, who I think would be a good example of this.
That was Pete Carroll.
Cliff Kingsbury, I think, is another guy. Granted, he had that coaching experience at Texas Tech, but he was a coach in the NFL. I think that's a dude where a college program can go, okay, you have NFL head coaching experience, you have NFL offensive coordinator experience, you know how that works over there. We're now in an era where we're getting close to that model than our former model. We'd rather have Cliff Kingsbury and his pro experience and his offense as opposed to getting an older, more experienced college coach who's came up in the rankings.
Don't you think he's more likely to get another NFL job than a college job? I think he wants to stay in the NFL.
Look, I think
I know a place.
When you go down the list, when you go down the list, no, he's not going to be the Bears head coach. I think Jimmy was alluding to
You should make a trade for Kyle Shanahan. I've been telling you that.
I totally agree. You're going to go down
Oh,
the
no, I wasn't looking for a coach for your team. I have my own diarrhea of a team.
Hey, you might take Troy Aikman seems to think that you might take a guy from college, move him to the NFL.
I know a guy in North Carolina they could take.
So
a guy in Boulder.
You're not you're not going to be able to go
point,
down the list and be like, oh, he's for sure going to hop to college and he's for sure going to do this, or I'm just saying it's a bold prediction. There will be 5 more former NFL head coaches in college football. Would you have pegged Bill Belichick 3 weeks ago to be the UNC head coach?
No,
when Bill O'Brien,
when you hear that he wasn't getting an NFL job and he's so desperate to coach, it makes sense.
Would you have pegged Bill O'Brien to be the Boston College head coach 2 years ago? Now, I'm not saying Boston College couldn't make that decision because they're adapting and this is where they're going. It's an actual good fit for what's happening. But I think that North Carolina, and this is crazy to say in college football, they might be ahead of the curve. They might be one step ahead of everybody, saying, you know what, we're just going to fully implement an NFL-style type system into college football because this is where we're going anyway, and we're not going to allow the NCAA delaying all this from happening, from delaying us from making these decisions.
Would you rather hire Cignetti or Eberflus? Let's say Eberflus is still working with the Bears and you're 8-9. So he's not going to lose his job.
Oh, for college football?
Well, yeah, I'm following you along your lines of college guys coming down or NFL guys coming down to college, but I'm an AD and I have 2 choices. I have a sitting NFL 8-9 coach who has interest.
Sure.
Probably because he thinks he might get fired. Or I have a winner who can also bring players.
Okay. I would take Cignetti. I'll flip this on you.
Okay.
You are, let's say, South Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Would you rather hire Dave Aranda or Sean McVay?
Well, is Sean McVay available?
Yeah.
He's available?
You're going to give him a lot of money. Would you rather have Sean McVay and hire a general manager or take Dave Aranda from Baylor?
I would take Dave Aranda from this standpoint that I think Sean McVay's an NFL guy and he would never stay in college.
And I think you could have said the same exact thing about Bill Belichick 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, but it's become well known.
But now you've known.
Well, because we had to figure out why is he interested in North Carolina, and we asked the question, and you figure and you hear there's no interest in the NFL. So a guy that wants to coach takes a college job and all of the stuff that comes with college. You don't have the portal in the NFL. You don't have all of that stuff in the NFL.
Now,
you get to.
I agree.
You primarily get to just coach ball in the NFL.
I agree. I mean,
that's why Lincoln Riley, Kirby Smart, I wouldn't say Dabo's probably not an NFL guy. You don't think those guys would be thinking about making the jump to the NFL?
I think there are college football guys looking to jump to the NFL, and I think there'd probably be NFL guys looking to jump to college football. But like you have the cards, like you now know the hand of Texas Hold'em with Bill Belichick. You now know that he outwarmed his welcome, that people in the NFL didn't want to hire him. But if North Carolina is successful, let's just throw it out there. If North Carolina and their model of bringing in a guy and bringing in a GM and basically agreeing to an NIL salary cap to go and acquire players, if they are successful and they have rapid success, I think everybody else is going to look at that and say, we're a dinosaur.
If they can get Bill Belichick, though, right?
Because
he will out-scheme you. Like, I feel bad for teams that got to play against North Carolina when it comes to special teams and defense.
Me too.
If he can get offense figured out at the college level, he'll be successful. But I think that's a Bill Belichick thing, not of, hey, let's go get an NFL guy and he comes into college and I think that's the coaching prowess of one of the greatest of all time.
But you do have to understand too that there are a lot of what I call schism guys in the NFL. They have a lot of great X's and O's. They have a lot of great schemes, right? There are a lot of NFL head coaches, and I'm not trying to disrespect college head coaches because a lot of college head coaches are more CEOs nowadays, and they're not necessarily the X's and O's. Heck, we have one in Nebraska. There are a lot of NFL coaches who could out-schism and out-coach college football coaches. Now, could those NFL coaches who could out-schism the college coaches, could they out-recruit? Could they out-acquire talent than those guys? Could they out-CEO or culture? Probably not. And so it's a give and take. But I think that if you are a team who may be in the mid to lower tiers and you have the money to invest like North Carolina is investing and they are successful with Bill Belichick, you are going to take that model. I'm not saying college football as a whole is going from 5 former NFL head coaches in Power 5 positions to 20. I'm saying in the next 10 years, we go from 5 to 10 because there are going to be
sitting NFL coaches
who are now Power 4 college football coaches.
Sam McEwen will join us coming up here in a little bit. Dave Kloss, you think he'll be mentioned for the Nebraska job?
No.
Jim Grobe?
No.
Jim Grobe went down the path.
Did
Yeah.
he?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Jim Grobe, when Bo Pelini got
I was
hired,
about to say, was that the Pelini?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to miss the slow mesh of the Wake Forest offense.
I love a slow mesh. I love a delay. I do know what I love more than anything? A tight end leak.
I love when you go under center on the goal line.
Yeah.
I love the quarterback sneak. I love that face masks are properly called in NFL and college these days.
I love it when my center
Except in Manhattan.
I love it when my center checks in as a fullback, but actually doesn't check in at all.
All right. Sam McEwen, Brian Christopherson, 1620 The Zone. All right, Sam McEwen coming up here in a little bit. Would you like to compare your quarterback of your beloved Chicago Bears to Dylan Raiola or other quarterbacks that are in similar situations?
Go ahead.
I don't think, and this has a lot to do with, well, I'm not a big fan of the sandlot ball that he just scrambles instantly. And maybe he's got some PTSD of the offensive line. But does it appear that he doesn't trust himself?
Yeah.
And he passes up easy completions?
Yeah.
Didn't we have this discussion in the fall around here? I mean, it's not just these two quarterbacks, but it's quarterbacks that a lot look this way. Maybe their protection isn't great. I like Caleb Williams. I think you have a chance, and I think whoever is the new head coach and general manager there, they are inheriting at least something, and you hope that he doesn't just lose all confidence with what's going on this season. But it just, you don't trust yourself, and then easy completions he won't take and tries for the harder ones. Like I'm looking at some under routes last night that instead he wanted to go in the end zone, and he threw into coverage. And we had that discussion. Steelers fans will say that was Neil O'Donnell.
There's a similarity between Dylan Raiola and Caleb Williams. It's two guys with rocket arms with a lack of poise. I think it's just simply a lack of poise in the pocket, holding onto the ball too long, and also a lack of confidence of the pieces around them. I think there were times, I mean, look, how many times could Dylan throw a really good ball and it hit the hands of his receiver and it ended up being an interception? Happened like 3 times. You lose confidence in your guys when that occurs. How many times has Caleb Williams put a ball on a guy, Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, Rome Odunze, and they just dropped it?
That was a hell of a catch by Keenan Allen on the sideline.
It was. That was incredible. But then he dropped 3 other ones. You know, like I said, 5 steps forward, 7 steps back. But with Caleb and I think with Dylan, it's just...
And any quarterback that is kind of really talented but goes through a stretch.
It's hard,
where they
man.
look lost.
You just have to be poised, and you have to understand, and I believe it with Dylan, and I believe it with Caleb. You win championships with easy 3-yard completions, with easy 7-yard throws. You don't have to be Brett and go for the home run every single time, every single play. You can. There's not, and I think that we've created a stigma around check down Charlie and just dump, just little dink and dunks and whatever. But like Tom Brady at times was death by 1,000 cuts. He wasn't just chucking it. Like the only true time that he was really chucking it down the field the entire season was 2007 with Randy Moss. And
by the way, love Randy Moss.
Oh, absolutely.
What they did last night was pretty
great.
Damn cool.
Was great. I agree. But like a lot of what Tom was doing in New England was you had guys like Julian Edelman, like Wes Welker, like, Gronk, they gave him the ball in space a lot as well. So it's like, I think these guys with their arms, and they've been told in high school and sometimes in college for Caleb, chuck the ball down the field, chuck the ball down the field. They don't have that true experience. Look at Dylan's tape. Dylan's tape in high school was a lot of chucking the ball down the field.
Agree. And a complete opposite guy that played in the other Monday night game last night that was at
Also
times just
bad.
awful football. How much did the Falcons pay Kirk Cousins?
Way too much money.
188. They try and hide him now. I think he's too conservative. This is discussion about Caleb Williams now talking about Kirk Cousins. I think he's too conservative, but they're trying to hide him.
Raheem said the opposite. Raheem thinks he's being too aggressive and forcing the balls. That's what he said in his presser. I think he threw 4 picks against LA, and he was already lacking confidence before that game. And then that 4-pick happening was the nail in the coffin. And then I think so too. You got to factor this in, Gare. You got the 8th overall pick in the meeting room with you, sitting right behind you. You moved your family to Atlanta. You thought it was a great opportunity. Now you're waning in performance, and now that 8th overall pick where they thought maybe, he'd have to wait a year or two to get, now he's kind of lurking in the back, and he's a bad shadow behind Kirk Cousins, and he knows Kirk Cousins is a couple mistakes away every single game from Raheem Morris really having to think about putting in Michael Penix Jr. in the game.
Will they pull the trigger, though? all that money to Kirk Cousins. They've had a couple opportunities because with 5 straight games, he's been under an 80 passer rating. And that's in the NFL, but yet they won't. They won't move on.
Do you think that's an Arthur Smith decision?
Probably. I think that's clearly financial because I don't think if you make the change, you're probably never going back and you start the Michael Penix era in Atlanta.
They drafted him for a reason. And by the way, Michael Penix wasn't a product where he was like J.J. McCarthy or Drake May where you needed to sit him. You could have argued that he looked like the Heisman Trophy winner at the end of last college football season.
But don't you think, though, like even you can't do this because of NFL quarterback contracts, but in the ideal world would be Kansas City set up with Alex Smith and Patrick Mahomes basically red shirts. Like J.J. McCarthy, I know, is injured.
That's the best.
And now you got 4 years of a handpicked quarterback by Kevin O'Connell, who I think is a great coach.
Coach of the year.
And they're going to have the 6-month cap space in the offseason. I mean, they're in a good spot in Minnesota. Brian Flores could leave to be a head coach somewhere, maybe with your Bears. But in the NFL, to be able to redshirt a first-year quarterback so that they don't lose confidence or whatever, like could Penix Jr. be the redshirt year, and then once you get through the year and maybe you sneak into the playoffs, then you go to him. I think it would be ideal for some quarterbacks, but nowadays the financials say you just can't.
They have a bad
rookie quarterback contract.
Atlanta has a bad D-line, and so I think that they're still looking at that situation as in, look, we could put Penix, and maybe as opposed to getting 9 wins, you get to 10 wins, and instead of being on the outside looking in, you get that last wild card spot. At the same time, I think that there are people in Atlanta who look at the situation in Chicago, and Caleb Williams has gotten worse from where he was at certain points in the season. And you see him after he had that incredible scramble around the field, and then he got knocked in the ribs, and he was just out, and then he goes on the bench, and he's laying back, and you see how much pain he is. And
We've all been there.
You look at his face, too, where he's looking up to the sky being like, God dang it, man.
Yeah.
That's the fear. That's what people freak out about. That's what get GMs really, really scared about putting these guys into bad situations right away. Whatever you thought was the worst situation for Caleb Williams has become that. And we were marketing at this as it's one of the best situations ever for a rookie quarterback, and that's how quickly it turned. I agree with you. Atlanta shouldn't play Michael Penix. But if you're the guys in that locker room and you're Raheem Morris, you know that, every year there's 90% of the guys in the NFL, maybe 85% of the guys in the NFL don't know where they're going to be playing next year. You need to be in the best situation possible every single season, winning as many games as you can so you can keep a job in the league. And when the team looks around, they go, if Michael Penix Jr. is the best option, we got to be playing him, because if you don't, that's how you lose locker rooms.
Sam McEwen, the World Herald, been in many locker rooms. He'll join us next on 1620 The Zone. All right, midweek bowl season is upon us. Memphis and West Virginia night in the Scooters Coffee Frisco Bowl at 8 o'clock on your favorite bowl channel, ESPN. Leads into the playoff coming up this weekend. That also includes a little volleyball as we welcome in Sam McCune of the Omaha World Herald. Good morning, Sam.
Good morning. How are you guys?
Good. Let's start with volleyball. Good or bad for the sport that it was all chalk? 4 number 1 seeds make it to Louisville.
Good. I think this is a moment where the sport of volleyball has an opportunity to kind of take a leap in visibility. And this isn't the moment where you want Vermont soccer. Like you want,
which by the way, hell of
the
an
biggest,
accomplishment.
you want the biggest brand, and you want Nebraska. That's the team. And obviously it'd be cool if Nebraska and State were playing each other for the national championship, but those are two giant brands in the sport that'll be playing at 8:30 p.m. on Thursday night. I couldn't even tell you who the NFL game is this week, and there's an opportunity to have some visibility, and people who tune in are gonna watch one heck of a match, and the first match is going to be good too. I mean, Pittsburgh is a dynamic team for sure, but there's moments in the sport, and it feels like one of those moments. And again, this is one of those moments where everybody in the sport really should be rooting for Nebraska, and should be rooting for the team that had the documentary and had the world record crowd and has the superstar players. That's not to knock anything that Penn State's about, and they of course have an incredible story with their coach. I would just say that Nebraska's got the players that kids are going to want to be like. I mean, there's a Caitlin Clark quality to Harper Murray that it's just hard to quantify. She just has a certain star power. So does Lexi Rodriguez.
Yeah.
And if you have an opportunity to have those players on that stage with a couple of million people watching, and then to have that happen again on Sunday, I think that's what the sport needs at this moment. At a later date, you want a little bit more parity, but for right now, I think this is what you want.
I do want to mention, Gary, that Sam doesn't know what the NFL games are this week because he's a Bears fan like me, and I think we're just both checked out.
Denver Chargers.
Oh, I mean, the last two games that the Bears have played may be two of the worst they've played in the last decade. I mean, and they're both on national TV, and they were horrible.
Try 20 years. This is the worst season of my life. Sam, let's go back. Let's go back. Let's go back to a team that we actually enjoy talking about, Nebraska volleyball. For me, and Gary and I have talked a lot about it over the last week. There's a certain aura around this team. There's just a certain attitude about this team. There's this just a lot of story built up in last year's season, their youth and inexperience turning into now experience, and a lot of just great players on that team. You've covered a lot of really good teams in your time as a reporter. Does this team and their aura and just their attitude and just the hype around them remind you of any teams that you've maybe reported on in the past? Or is this, are they kind of a novelty?
Well, I think they have a quality about them that is a little bit different from the great football teams that Nebraska's had, of course. But those Nebraska football teams had a certain personality too.
Mm-hmm.
And this team does. And again, in the sport of volleyball, I think they stand out just a little bit.
Yeah.
In the sense that they just have a certain, again, star power. It's just some of they've been at Nebraska a long time. John Cook has a certain star power to him. He's a compelling figure. He's not just a volleyball coach. And a lot of them, I'm not trying to knock other volleyball coaches, but obviously he has a story with his pursuits off the court, and they're superstars. They're just hard. So they're a little unique in the sense that, like, when Nebraska football was great in the 90s, and when I was in college, I covered one of those teams in 97.
Mm-hmm.
There were other teams like that. There were, Florida State was like that. Miami was like that. And Notre Dame was like that. This Nebraska team has a unique quality to it that when they take the court on Thursday night, they may not win the match. I think they will, but
sure,
you're going to be watching them and you're going to be like, these girls are cool. These women are cool. That's the difference is this particular team and the team last year just has a quality about it where you're like, you can imagine kids wanting to be those specific players. Like, I grew up watching Lexi Rodriguez. I grew up watching Harper Murray. And that's what I think this team has, and that's why the sport should be rooting for them. I don't know that Nebraska volleyball is universally beloved in the sport, at the collegiate sport, but this is the team that everybody should be rooting for, because I think a lot of people can kind of go on their coattails, so to speak, if they win the national championship.
Hey, do you think Dante Dowell, this decision was the same a week ago today, or do you think this is a recent development, what he announced yesterday?
A recent development. I do think it's related to money. I do think that the market is tight, is changing a little bit as we go forward here, and there's probably a school or two that really like what Dante Dowell does inside the 20.
Yeah.
And we're like, yep, let's get this guy on our team. Touchdowns, folks, are just unbelievably important in the sport. And Nebraska actually found a guy that can score touchdowns. Now, obviously, Dante Dowell didn't do that all on his own. He had blocking, but from 15 yards in, Dante Dowell was a bad dude, and you didn't want to tackle him, and you didn't want to tackle him inside the 5, and he could get up in the air and he could break tackles, and that's a commodity. Commodity is the wrong word. That's a skill set.
Yeah,
and not everybody has it. And so, a team like Michigan or a team like Ohio State or a team that's like, what? When we get inside the 5, we don't have to throw the football because this guy will go and score. And that's a gifting. And you'll notice that Dante Dowell had the same number of rushing touchdowns that Dylan Raiola had passing touchdowns this year. And that tells you something about what they thought of Dowell inside the 10. So yeah, he's a real commodity at this point, and he's got a skill set that other schools want and are willing to pay for.
Yeah, he scored 12, and you can argue he left a couple on the board too throughout the season.
Yes.
Sam, I want to talk about what I think has quickly become one of the most interesting positions on this Nebraska football team, the tight ends room. Carter Nelson, Matt Rhule said he's back to being a tight end after having his first year as a wide receiver. Heinrich Harburg has essentially moved over from quarterback to tight end. Luke Lindenmeyer is a guy who played a lot, and then Dana Holgerson used him more. I know that Borkertcher is in the transfer portal, but they are still in talks to try and get him back to the team. And then after all those guys, you have what was the incumbent starter, Thomas Fidone, who's still around, despite the fact that he wasn't used nearly as much when Dana came in and became the offensive coordinator and wasn't even mentioned by Rhule during the press conference. I'll just ask you straight up, like week 1 next year against Cincinnati in Arrowhead, who do you think Nebraska football is calling the starting tight end?
Well, I think some of that depends on whether Borkertcher finds what he's looking for out there in the world.
Yeah.
If he returns, I think Nate could very easily be the starter. The great thing you have about that group is there's a variety of skill sets.
Mm-hmm.
Harburg is a player you got to kind of figure out, okay, what can he do and what is he capable of doing? What can he do that no one else can do? That Carter Nelson's kind of the same way.
Sure.
Borkertcher's all-around player. I think Lindenmeyer actually is too. He's a little shorter. So, Lindenmeyer's not going to be your necessarily your red zone guy, but Lindenmeyer's a good athlete. And then Fidone, and then, assuming Eric Ingwerson stays,
sure.
That's a good-looking player who redshirted this year. They didn't need him per se, but that's a guy that looks awfully good. You just look at his body type, looks a lot actually like Keone Davis in terms of the way that their frame is set, what you could do, the weight that you might be able to add going down the road. So it's a very strong room. The skill room is getting to where I think it probably needs to be, where Dylan Raiola is surrounded. The running back issue got interesting with Dowdell's transfer, but the skill room's getting to the point where I think it can be Dylan Raiola is able to maximize his ability and not have to sort of hold that ball for 7 seconds looking for somebody to get open. You got Ja'Cory Barney.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to press Cortez Mills into action because I think they feel like he can play right away. If they get Eric Rivers, the guy out of FIU, then that's another player that's very similar to Barney and Mills. And then you've got to try to find a larger receiver, and that's either going to be one of the redshirt freshmen or some other guy they're going to find. The kid from California is interesting. He's talented. Dane Key, I don't know if they're going to have enough money or whatever to get him. Where'd the other guy go from Kentucky? Where'd he go? Texas, or where'd he go? Berrien?
Yeah, Berrien Brown. I'll look that up for you.
You know what? I think he stayed in the SEC.
Yeah, like there's a lot. Now that everybody's kind of got the revenue sharing money.
Yeah, he went to LSU.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, it's going to be challenging to get some of these guys out of the portal. It's going to cost a lot of money. You're going to have to, and this is just my opinion. You've got to balance let's go see if we can go pay for a receiver like a Jamal Banks, or let's see if we can go get an offensive tackle like Isaiah World. And my sense is, and maybe we can ask Rhule this on Friday, I don't know if he'll tell us this, is that you've got to probably prioritize, I would prioritize pocket crasher, pocket protector, and then, whatever else comes after that, probably receiver. But I think edge rusher and offensive tackle are your two priorities. And offensive tackle is going to be a top priority, irrespective of who transferred from the program, and no one has. I think Nebraska is willing to maintain the tackles it has, other than Jacob Hood, because they really need offensive tackles. They just lost Ben Hart, and you don't really know if you can count on Corcoran or Prohaska because of their injuries.
So let's with that mindset, because as we all predicted, Nebraska would start the portal acquisition of building a team with a 5-star defensive end and then a long snapper. But those are two areas of need. But now I really, and this comes highly recommended from Dan Jackson, Mr. Burke Bulldog, who was his defensive coordinator at Idaho. I really like Andrew Marshall, and DJ vouches for him. You mentioned World, who is the $1 million offensive tackle, who's got Texas A&M and Oregon. You got a Sam Houston defensive lineman. You got a guy who played a little bit at Oregon State that's going to be making a visit. How would you describe Nebraska's first week and a day in the portal giveth and the portal taketh away, whether it's two acquisitions, guys they've lost, or guys that are on campus, which includes Rivers, as you mentioned, who's now at Georgia Tech?
They've lost some players on the defensive line and the edge rushers that hurt to lose. I think a couple of them were going to go. Mm-hmm. And so, my understanding is, and Rhule kind of said this, Tamari Butler left on very good terms. Rhule gets that. I think with Prince William and Yellen, who I think is an unbelievably talented player, it wasn't going to work. And obviously I wrote about him before the beginning of the season, where I said, this program needs to find a way to reach Prince William and Yellen. And they need to get this guy to be an elite player. And it just, for whatever reason, it just didn't coalesce. And so he's in Mississippi. I think Nebraska's done okay at retaining the players it wants to. I really think the 1-2 punch at running back would have been good. And apparently Dowell just, he's got too many good offers. And so that's unfortunate, because now you got to go kind of find a power back. Gabe Ervin, I don't think has found a home. Do you go back to Gabe Ervin and say, well, do you want to come back? I don't think so. So then you got to go find somebody else. And, I don't know who the hammer is going to be. I don't know that the guy's on the roster. Is Quentin Ives that guy? Probably not. So, I think you got to go find that. But they've done okay so far. I think Nebraska's trying really hard to maintain, as much of the roster as they can. I think they'll probably come out okay. I think if this was a year ago, it'd come out better because the rev share money is just sort of flying around. But I think they've done a reasonably good job. And if they get this offensive tackle, then I think you're cooking with gas. Like they really do need to get a high end, in my opinion, not just one, but two. And if they get that, then I think they're in pretty good shape.
Yep.
Sam, Addison Williams going to be the next defensive backs coach for Nebraska. Just what's your read on that hire and him taking over a room that really needs to take another step for John Butler's defense?
I think it's a experienced hire that's got some coordinator experience and can kind of take that room and run with it a little bit. John Butler obviously has experience coaching the defensive back, so he can work with Williams to do what needs to be done. And then it just becomes about relationship building. This is a group of defensive backs who will now be on their fourth defensive backs coach since 2022. Travis Fisher, Evan Cooper, John Butler, and now Addison Williams. That kind of turnover requires a lot of stability from the coach and a lot of understanding on the front end, which is why it was probably important to retain John Butler as the coordinator, because I think these players want to have some continuity. And so they'll be able to get that. You know, we've seen that before, though, once before, where the defensive backs coach had a different coach every year, and that just doesn't work. So Williams has got to kind of root in and develop the players, and we'll see where it goes from there, but I think it's a solid hire.
Sam, as always, we appreciate it. Safe travels out to New York City for the holidays and the Pinstripe Bowl, and we'll talk to you after the first of the year.
All right, take care.
Thanks, Sam.
Sam McEwen of the Omaha World Herald. Dante Dowell. Think about this. We'll come back. We'll talk about it on the other side. The ideal offense and landing spot for him would it be in the Big Ten? We'll do that coming up in the next hour of Gary and Matt on 1620. Hey, I see the Travis Hunter shoddy conversation is still going on.
Yeah, did you watch the 8-minute video of her defending herself?
Oh,
yeah.
I did not. I saw that it existed. I refused. I would watch The Office, but it would take me, I would have to watch The Office in like 4 sittings.
Okay.
Because I would get secondhand embarrassment from Michael Scott. Like
I got you.
I've watched a lot of The Office. There's one episode that I never watched, and it was Scott's Tots. Okay.
Yeah.
Like when I first got there and I saw the premise of the show, I go, I can't do this. Like when they started singing to him, like, hey, Mr. Scott, you're going to make our dreams come true. Yeah. I clicked out of it. I didn't watch it for 2 years. And then I finally manned up. So when I saw she posted a whole 8-minute video, I was like, before I even watched a second of it, I got secondhand embarrassment. So I didn't click on it. I read the Spark Notes.
He didn't say this. He doesn't smoke or drink.
Oh, I saw
and
this.
He would take her to parties, and then he would wait outside for her.
Wow.
This will be.
I never took anyone.
This will be fun when he gets to the NFL.
You know, there's also some claims that
yourself.
There was also some claims that she had, some inappropriate accounts as well and whatnot. But I don't know if there's a lot of merit to that.
You put yourself out there, you're gonna get yourself out there. That's what my dad used to say to me.
I like that.
He said, "Don't get on Instagram. You put yourself out there.
Okay,
you're gonna be out there." Why you scoff at that?
Because Instagram wasn't until 10 years ago. Your dad was not saying
he
to
could
you
have still told him.
as an older
Maybe
individual.
it was MySpace.
Yeah.
Would have been MySpace.
Your dad wasn't
Don't be
telling-
friends with him. He's friends with everyone.
Your dad at 65 wasn't telling 35-year-old Gary, hey, don't get on Instagram, man. You're gonna regret it one day. I definitely regret it.
My dad was like, "Are you really spending money on that?" Yeah, Dad, I'm spending money on that.
But that is something that I'll have to maybe one day tell my kids about Instagram.
Stay off the gram. Hope that TikTok is still around.
Have good friends.
I need to have a conversation with the president.
Because I'll say this, I have friends.
They want to get rid of TikTok. President Trump says no. He goes, "That's where my younger people live."
It's like,
He
should get on TikTok.
Help me win the election, he said yesterday. And I'm like, I just want you to keep TikTok.
Yeah, I just want to keep looking at brain rot and laughing.
There is so much productive stuff on TikTok.
Yes,
it is.
I agree. It just
like
depends.
Even I agree.
It
Like just saying
depends on
something.
what you want, though. Like if you want productive stuff on TikTok, you can.
it's
find
all
it.
productive.
My first one. It's Taylor Swift in a children's hospital. That's not brain rot.
Is she leaving Travis?
The next one is, chilling at Mahomes' house. The third one. This is a friend of mine whose husband plays for the Rangers, the Texas Rangers.
My first
you
one.
You don't want that. They're talking about doing something in their house.
Can I show it to the camera? My first one on Instagram. There's no audio. It's rats getting trapped. There's a little rat trap there.
Hey, is that South Omaha? They have a rat infestation.
Look at that rat trap. Look, it gets in there. It gets in the little thing, and then it tips over, and they don't know what's going on. That's my first one.
Did you know this? They've got like a huge rat problem in South Omaha.
I saw that on the news.
Hey, it's nothing. I'm telling you something right now. The rats so I used to do the 5 a.m. shift at ESPN on Saturdays. So I would have to get down to Chicago. It was like 5:30. So I'd get down to Chicago around like 4:55, 5 o'clock. The rats scurrying around those. I kid you not.
It's like Rizzo on the Muppets.
Big. Like this big. They are massive.
Talking about rats here.
I parked my car on the corner of State and Lake on it was like a Dearborn. It's on Dearborn. It's by the theater district, but it was on State and Lake. I'm walking around from Dearborn onto Lake, going up the state, and they got these sewers, like really big sewers, like right in front of the Dunkin'. I literally saw one this big run across.
Are they
the
the same size as the drones that are over New Jersey?
I don't think they have flashing red and green lights on these rats.
I've only seen one rat, and of course it was on the streets of New York City. I did not know because it scurried down into the train station.
Okay.
Had to get to work.
And I was like, I didn't know that the rats got that big.
Oh, I think Chicago 10 years in a row have been the rattiest city.
There's a White Sox joke in there somewhere.
Is that why you go through so many mayors?
Yeah. There's a lot of
corrupt politicians.
There's a lot of rats in Chicago, both in office and in the sewers.
My For You page is very boring. We know these guys, so
okay.
yeah, that's no fun.
Oh!
Let's text him.
Scouting.
Oh,
there's pizza. So
yeah. So I got a lot of food.
There,
sports.
let's do a scroll. The second one is Drew Aller. That's a report on Drew Aller.
I'm surprised he came back.
Have you ever seen this guy?
Yes.
He is so funny.
Yeah.
He is so funny.
About Drew Aller, who Nebraska will get to see next year.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit surprised he came back. I thought he would go into the NFL draft. Now, I know the top end of the NFL draft for quarterbacks is pretty loaded.
That's what I think.
But I thought also he might dabble in the portal.
Ooh.
Because he would be a big money guy. Maybe that's a sign of, he's got some loyalty. Penn State's good to him.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to upset the apple cart right now.
Franklin's been good to him too and has trusted him and they've gone through stuff.
Well,
they recruited him.
On that point, I like how you're thinking because they went and got Hudson, the wide receiver from USC yesterday in the portal.
Yeah.
So we'll play with him next year.
Hey, Clemson got a transfer.
Thank God. Now that's over. We don't have to talk about it.
Has hell frozen over?
Transfer portal Clemson go bye-bye. We don't have to talk about that anymore. Good. Congratulations.
They got a good player, man. Tristan Smith, 6'5", dude.
Welcome.
Guys. Hey, back to Aller real quick.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm not surprised that he didn't go because you're right. Like it's loaded in the front half of this draft with Shador and Cam Ward, and we're assuming Quinn Ewers is going to go to the draft, and I think Dylan Gabriel is already. Has he already declared for the draft?
I think he's waiting until after the season comes
so like there's not going to be, he's the seventh quarterback. He's not going, or seventh, eighth. He's not going to, there's not 7 quarterbacks going in the first round. Now next year, he's going to be in that upper echelon of guys if he has another good season, in which will he be necessarily worthy of will he have a first round grade on him? Maybe not, but because he could be the second or third best quarterback in the draft, he could go in the first round. And also, too, he's going to be making money at Penn State.
He will. And he's going to be cold this weekend. So 3 of the 4 games are going to be impacted by weather. Tennessee, it's cold in Knoxville, by the way. Everybody's going, look how cold it's going to be in Columbus. It gets cold in Knoxville.
Yes, it gets windy.
It was like 25 degrees last week in Knoxville. Okay, so it's not like that's the one team from the SEC that it will not be such a huge adjustment.
Tennessee and Ohio aren't that far away from each other.
Right.
No.
That's why they're overrun Columbus.
The SMU Penn State game is like, to me, the least anticipated of the 4 this
They're like
weekend.
the Texans 3:30 game.
Yes. Like
everyone's got to be that one.
Okay, I'll watch, but I'm more jazzed for Saturday night. And I got a little nugget for you. This is in Jimmy's wheelhouse. He loves this stuff.
Oh.
Do you know what's going to happen on Friday night between Notre Dame and Indiana?
A solar eclipse?
No, it will not be happening.
This will be the first Friday night game since 1900.
But even more so, it will be on ABC.
Yep.
It'll be the first non-Notre Dame home game that is not on NBC since they signed that deal in 91.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So
I think Penn State 90 was.
ABC is carrying the game because of ESPN.
Yeah.
And Notre Dame, everything's been on NBC since 91. That's crazy to think that they've had an exclusive NBC contract since 1991. But Friday night,
which was controversial then
for all of us media nerds, that's going to be a little bit of history.
Well, look, I talk a lot of crap about Notre Dame, but I mean that deal and them being exclusive to NBC has kept them okay. They're historic; they will always be relevant. But the fact that they got that exclusive deal before it became, Rock'em Sock'em Robots with everyone trying to get exclusive TV deals was incredibly smart. Thank God Jack Collinsworth isn't calling Notre Dame, Indiana. We probably would have watched
Keith
that.
Jackson.
Do we know
who's calling?
Who's doing? Yes,
so
they have the
Herb Street and Fowler are doing Ohio State, Tennessee.
What is it?
It might be Tess or no, it might be Sean.
Sean
actually.
McDonough. Okay.
Oh, I like Sean. Does Wischusen do? And is he going to do any of these?
Yeah, I think he's got one of them. He's probably got Penn State.
I like Bob. I like Bob a lot. Bob does
I like Bob.
I like Bob Wischusen in hockey. Have you listened to him do hockey?
He does a really good job with the Jets too.
He does
on radio.
I think he's the most underrated.
Sean McDonough. Oh, and Mark Jones leaving Boulder to go to SMU Penn State.
That just adds to the least anticipated game.
I don't want.
He was okay.
Muted.
You guys don't watch the Kings, but so he's my TV guy.
Yeah, he is your TV guy.
Talk about Dion there too.
No, he's a little
weird, man.
Oh, so
he's a bit of a nut.
He's not as. I think he's annoying on college football. He's not as annoying on the Kings games.
I can see that.
But he's out there.
But
he doesn't do all the Kings games, but
you and I both know like
Shoes is doing the Fiesta Bowl, by the way, Matt.
What's he doing? Which one's he doing?
He's doing the Fiesta Bowl New Year's Eve.
Beauty.
Boise State against the Penn State winner.
Great. So with Jones, like I just feel like he doesn't call enough of the action like on football. Like it's not enough of like.
Well, that's not his job. His job is to glaze Dion.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a muted game.
Dante Dowell, if you did not know, is in the portal, like some money. I'm sure that people have decided that their loyalty towards college football is now over. That's fair. If you don't like what's going on, that's fair. That's absolutely fair to have emotion. Probably should not get emotionally attached to players anymore. Just root for the number in the jersey. Root for the program.
I agree.
You know what?
You're a fan
Who
of
cares
Nebraska.
about 23? Who cares about 21? They play for Nebraska. I root for Nebraska. I'm loyal to Nebraska. You know what? It's just a player in a uniform, and next year we're going to go get a different player to be in that uniform.
Doesn't that suck, though?
It
Like,
does, and
it sucks.
there's a little hint of sarcasm there, but that's the reality is you don't want to get emotionally attached because it makes you feel different about college football. We do Saturdays really well. The games and the atmosphere, the pageantry is awesome. The other stuff, holy moly. But Nebraska's leading rusher for last year, whatever you think about him, that he couldn't make the first guy miss, that he didn't have vision, maybe didn't have a role, maybe doesn't fit in the new offense, all of that stuff. He still scored 12 touchdowns last year, and he's going to be a popular guy. So this is a money ploy, and good on him, go chase the bag. There's a lot of Dante Dowdells in the portal, but how many schools look at Dowdell and go, I got the money to match what he wants? Could he stay? Now remember, he's from Mississippi. Dad's a good dude. Dad. I think Dad made almost every game this year.
Good for,
like would
that's
drive,
awesome,
would
man.
drive to the game.
That's so awesome.
Will he stay in the Big Ten? Out of college, he committed to Oregon, so he's on his third school in 3 years, which is a whole nother story.
Sure.
He was recruited by Minnesota. Doesn't he seem like a Minnesota PJ Fleck back?
Is Darius Taylor staying in
He
Minnesota?
is still there, so you could have a 1-2 punch?
I think that's what you have to have. I think Dowdell is your perfect second running back. Okay? He is your perfect. Hey, we're in, like Sam said. Sam put it perfectly. We're within the 20-yard line. Let's bring Dante. Hey, it's 3rd and 1. It doesn't matter where we're at. Let's bring Dante in.
It's like Darryl Riggs.
So I have no lead on where he might go, but let's say he's gotten used to cold weather, so, stay in this part of the country. Wouldn't he be an ideal running back for Big Bert?
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh, Bert's salivating.
Now, I want to go a step further because this would be a program that has money. What about Michigan?
So Mullings is probably now. Here's that one thing. Like I think Mullings is a better version of Dante Dowdell. They're both physical, bigger backs. Mullings has shown the propensity to break those really, really big runs. One of his really big runs, had them beat USC, and at the time was could argue before Ohio State that was probably their biggest win of the year at home against at the time a ranked USC team. I think that maybe there are two similarities.
Okay.
Like, because you don't have to worry about Khalil Mullings getting into the end zone. I got a team for you.
Okay.
I like Iowa for him.
I wondered if that's what you were going to say.
I think it just makes sense. Like
Wait a minute. Was he one of the captains for the game in
Iowa
Iowa
City? Good question. I don't think he was. I think it was some of the seniors. I don't think he was. But I think Iowa would make a lot of sense because
that would spice up the rivalry a little bit.
I think Caleb Brown, by the way, Caleb Brown is a guy who can get into the end zone. Like, I'm not saying that Caleb Brown can't get into the end zone, but that is a team where their offense is really based on getting themselves into short yardage situations on third down, right? They want to score, but what's most important of the Iowa offense is getting the first down, right? You're just trying to stack up first downs. And so they're really good at getting themselves into third and short. Dante Dowell, and I'm going to tell you right now, man, it's hard to get those 2 yards. It's hard to get those 3 yards. It takes a toll on your body to run into that big beefy wall that the Big Ten teams have set up. So if you can get another guy who can take the load off of your main 3-down running back like Caleb Johnson, you should go and do it. I think Iowa would work. I like Michigan. I just think Mullings.
They do need a running back with Johnson going to the NFL.
Oh, he's going to the NFL. Yeah. I like Iowa.
How do we feel about, because during the portal era, there have been very few guys that have fallen up, like Adrian from Nebraska to Kansas State, Wandale from Nebraska to Kentucky. But there have not been a lot of those guys. Casey Rogers, Nebraska to Oregon. I mentioned this earlier. If I'm in the portal and I'm on the edge of should I get in or get out, I'm looking at my former teammates who are ending up at really good spots.
Yeah, no, it's a hell of an argument.
So is it good or bad for Nebraska? Because you could spin this in 100 different ways. That guys that are in the portal from Nebraska are coveted at LSU, by the portal king in Oxford, by Florida State. Now, I know the connection of Florida State, but even Mizzou, like Bayor is going to Missouri, which is a good pickup for them.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, if you're thinking, oh, geez, if I get in the portal, I'm not, destined for Bowling Green from Nebraska. I could go Nebraska to Michigan, Nebraska to West Virginia.
I think Nebraska's done a good job of locking up their top guys. So, yeah, it's a bad thing to have the stigma around the team where if you're a guy who is a better player than Bayer, if you're a guy you think you're better than Butler, if you're a guy who you think are better than these dudes going to these top programs, getting this, if Borkature ends up going to Alabama, right? I mean, what are some of those guys in the tight end room going to think when next year if they have a really successful season?
Alabama they've lost 15 guys to the portal. They haven't gotten anybody yet.
Yeah, he's got to pick it up, man. I mean, that's you never want to be the guy after the guy. So, but at the same time, Nebraska, look, Keona went to the portal. They worked really hard to get him back. Emmett went into the portal. They did a really good job of trying to get him back. So I think they've proven that they're taking care of their dudes. And so, yes, on the outside, yeah, it may not be the best.
Strike, you think it's strike when the iron's hot? Like, I may not be LSU worthy. I know I'm not going to disparage Butler, but when I don't look at him and go, man, that's an LSU frontline guy.
Sure.
Depth guy. But it's all about need, all about timing. You said it earlier. It's, the ideal, I'm in the portal now. You have a need. You have a little bit of cash. Let's get together. You know what? Maybe we just have a 1-year dance, and then if it doesn't work out, we'll move on.
I think Nebraska's proven that they're going to take care of their dudes, but at the same time, you're spot on. I think it's a great observation from you that, it's going to affect some of these guys who may not be playing, who may not be starting, who think they're better than they actually are, that they can go to these other programs and transfer. I got one more team for Dante before we go to break.
Okay.
Penn State. K-Tron will be there, but I think that could be a team. Look, Prebula is now out. He was a guy that scored 4 touchdowns for him. He's transferring. They like guys to they like to pound the ball. They like to run the clock off. They like to, Penn State's the type of team where if they need to score 40 points to win a game, they'll do it, but they don't mind winning games 24-13.
James Franklin recruited him out of high school. What about now that Shiloh is gone? Colorado. I mean, that might be the highlight of Dante Dowdell's career at Nebraska as he broke Shiloh Sanders' arm.
Yeah, I find that chasing 3 so funny where he was like, yeah, I probably could have gotten around Shiloh, but I wanted to punish him. That was good. Yeah, I think Penn State, Nick Singleton's going to be gone, so it's going to be Katron Allen's job. But then they are going to need, now I don't know what they have in the pipeline for Penn State. Maybe they have a dude that they really, really like, but that's a team where, yeah, you're going to need a goal line third down back in the Big Ten.
It'll be interesting to see how his agents do. And how much he gets.
I think he's got something set up. I think it's going to be quick. I don't think you enter the portal I don't want to say this late in the game, but if you're not entering the portal in the first week it's open, you probably got something set up and there's some tampering going on, which is fine. Tampering, look, you can call it tampering. Everybody should be tampering.
Brian Christopherson will join us coming up at the top of the 9 o'clock hour on a Tuesday edition of Gary and Matt on 1620 The Zone.
Join the VIP club and sign up for 1620 The Email. You'll be the first to know all the exciting content that's happening on 1620 The Zone, including sports news, contests, promotions, and more. Sign up today at 1620thezone.com.
All right, welcome back in. 30 minutes away from Brian Christopherson. He'll stop by before he drives to New York for the Pinstripe Bowl.
You got a nice hat. We're baseball themed today on our hats.
What am I wearing?
You're wearing a Rawlings.
Oh yeah, remember when we all got those?
The College World Series.
Mm-hmm.
You have
That's
something
awesome.
to look forward to. Some emails here.
Beauty.
TC writes in to the Equitable Bank inbox where they take
TC?
banking personally. The NCAA or whomever is running this thing needs to put some guardrails on this thing. Get rid of the redshirt rule. 4 years is 4 years.
Ooh.
If you can get a medical redshirt, good for you. As a qualifying freshman, you are signing a 2-year deal with that school. Every school should have a salary cap. LOL. Schools should be able to protect 60 players every year. If you are unprotected and want to enter the portal, God bless you. See you later.
See, that can't happen because that would be an infringement on name, image, and likeness according to what the courts have already established. I mean, the courts removed the one-time transfer rule. You know, when was that last year? Was that in the summer of last year? At some point, the
one-time transfer?
Yeah, no. Well, the
Where you
rule
used to
that
have it?
where you can, unless if you're going to transfer a second time, that you have to have a waiver. You have to have. They eliminated that, so now there's that wouldn't happen. I do like the idea though of. I mean, maybe you do eliminate if you're going to go down to 105 roster spots. Do you, because the red shirt used to be, well, there's so many guys on the team that, you know, there's a lot of people waiting in line. There's a benefit to putting this rule on this guy so he can get an extra year. So then maybe he can get into a different line and get into a different class so they can play. Now that you've limited this roster, maybe eliminate the red shirt.
4? Good idea by TC.
It's a good idea.
The whole situation is and this is going to sound, I don't know, what do you want to take from this? We just have to deal with it, okay? I understand. Players have to look out for themselves. There's a lot of this calendar about the portal that's open right now, and you got people preparing for the playoff or the bowl game, or coaches leaving and you can't play in a bowl game.
Yeah.
There's no concrete solution because you're not going to move the academic calendar. That's not going to happen.
Exactly.
So that presents a lot of issues, and we just... You know, you're not going to restrict player movement. That doesn't seem to be on the table. So what's going on right now, which I'm not a big fan of, is like normal. I mean, there's a lot of frustration with the calendar, but a lot of it has to do with academic. You want to get in so you can get for spring football, you can get at your next school when they start school next year.
Okay,
I mean, and again, I think that we just got to make it through a couple of years. And I believe that the chaos will slow and we will figure it out. And we will adjust because that's what we do. You just have to hold on tight for the next couple of years. And maybe just 1 year because of the big drop. But all these coaches that are saying, we got to do this, this, and this. You don't have a place to go to have that person go, I got you, coach. We'll take care of it. Because everybody is in for themselves. In for your brand on your polo before you go in for your league. And then even bigger is the health of the sport.
I was going to say, so this is weird. I thought, so when I went to UNL, we started a week earlier. This year, the academic year started on August 26th. When was the first game this year? August 31st for Nebraska football? I was going to say maybe if you want to get a week buffer in between everything, maybe you start the college football season a week earlier. So as soon as you get on campus, there's a game being played. At least for me, when I went to UNL, that wasn't the case. We had a week without a game, and then Nebraska played. But you're right. I mean, there's just no way around shifting. The only way to do this is to shift the academic calendar, and I just don't think there's any snowball's chance in hell that they're going to do that. They're not going to go from 12 games to 11 games. They're not going to eliminate games. And then I think the next conversation would probably be, well, do you eliminate the championship games? But then you don't eliminate the champion. You can't eliminate the championship games.
I would eliminate the championship games, and I would when you had moved the playoff up.
Yeah. I mean, that might be their only solution. Now,
because
here's,
remember,
here's a problem,
you're going to expand in a couple of years, probably to 14 or 16.
Here's a problem too. What happens if the Big Ten says, hey, we have a great Michigan team, a great Penn State team, a great Ohio State team, a great Oregon team. Why not? What if we do a Big Ten conference championship playoff? That could be a legit convo with 18 teams, and if they end up adding more,
and then you don't play anybody else, and you just win the Big Ten. So you're not competing for a national championship.
Well, no. I wouldn't say that. I'd say you probably would. You might have to eliminate your non-con games and just say instead of doing 3 non-con games, you do 2 non-con games. But what happens if that occurs? Because that is a conversation that could happen. If you get to 22, 23, 24 teams in the SEC and the Big Ten as these years go on and more, Clemson wants to go to the SEC. Florida State wants to go to the SEC. Notre Dame might get into a bind at this point where they're like, hey, we might have to join the Big Ten, right? Mm-hmm. So, like, what happens if you continue to add these teams to these conferences? Then what you're saying is that the only way for me to win a Big Ten conference championship is to come in first or second amongst 22 teams, which, by the way, the schedules are going to be incredibly imbalanced at that point if there's a 22-team conference. That could be another issue that you run into.
The thing that makes college football so great is it's not fair. There's nothing equal.
I agree.
I mean,
I agree.
Before we move forward with like any of the ideas like you're mentioning, if they could get uniformity in number of conference games you play across the board, that would be a great start. When we can get to that, then we can start talking about other things about the calendar of the football. The academic calendar is not changing.
No.
Now Nebraska, because what is it? You guys don't. What's the term called that's in January? It's about a 3-week deal before school starts. That's why the semester starts a little bit later.
Winter break?
No, it's like the J term.
J term, is that what you said last year?
Oh, you take that's when you take winter. You can take a 3-week course.
So
they're
eliminating that, and so
that's terrible.
Return to school will move up.
That's terrible.
Zach writes in, the fact that other schools will be willing to pay Dowdell what he wants, but Nebraska can't, tells you everything you know about 1890. Not good enough.
No, not true. I think it tells you everything you need to know about the running back room, in my opinion. I think that they think they're pretty sound. I think they like what they got. If they go on and get a running back, that'll tell you more about it. But I really do think that they trust Emmett Johnson, and I think they've been recruiting running backs, and they begin these high school running backs, and they clearly believe in them when they bring them in. We'll see what happens.
A little surprised they had not I don't think they were ready for this. They had dabbled with many portal running backs.
Yeah, that is true.
We'll see if that changes today. There's a lot of running backs in the portal.
Well, that's another thing, too, that you're totally right. We've talked about this at length, about how there are certain positions where it's easier to go and get out and acquire than others. It seems like wide receiver, there's a lot of dudes out there who you can bring in and plug into your system. It seems like there's a decent amount of D linemen and D ends out there. But one thing that I've noticed is linebackers, it seems like that's a pretty tough market to get into. And offensive tackles, man, like every year, it just seems like Nebraska's in on one of these tackles or guards, and it costs a lot of money, right, to go and do it. And teams are willing to remember Walter Rouse
made a lot of money in Oklahoma.
And then he got drafted to the NFL.
But to be fair, he effed Nebraska over.
Oh, big time.
Yeah, he lied to Nebraska.
But my point there being, though, is that even when Nebraska wins the bidding and they get Walter Rouse, there's still teams being like, all right, screw it. Let's try and jump him. Let's try and pay him more money.
The current running back room is Emmett Johnson, Quentin Ives, Mekhi Nelson, Jarian Parker, and Connor Booth. That's your running back room right now.
On paper, you would need to go and get a transfer portal running back. But maybe they see something in those guys that, 3 of those guys you mentioned haven't taken a snap.
Yes. And I don't know about Quentin Ives. I think you're a lot higher on Quentin Ives than I am.
When you see 3,000 running yards over 2 years in New Jersey, which is a pretty decent high school football mark. It's not at the level of Florida or Texas.
It's not the numbers of Connor Booth.
No. Well, Booth was a Nebraska guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think he ended up as the leading rusher in the country.
Really?
Yeah.
Was he
playing at C1 competition? He had an incredible senior year. Unfortunately, he got hurt in the semifinals.
Was he Ainsworth or was he
Wahoo Newman?
Wow. I remember watching that game with Eddie Messel, him playing, Connor Booth playing. I remember that.
Terry writes in, said, hi, guys. Not totally disappointed with Dowdell hitting the portal. Well, he was a tough inside runner. You never felt like he could house it from anywhere on the field.
No, I totally agree.
He turned a 60-yard run into a 20-yard game. We haven't had that kind of running back since Mo Washington. Mo Washington, scratch that off on your bingo card of a mention this morning. As Serrano said in Major League, we need that little green home run heater.
Gary, name me a random Tennessee Titan right now.
Frank Wycheck.
Attaboy.
Nice. I like
Good
that.
one.
Perry Phoenix.
Wow. That is that's going way back.
That's a good one.
Drugs are good, kids.
I'm sorry, I just completely derailed the great conversation we were having.
I like this game.
Guys naming dudes, always a winner.
I look clear. They know more than we do when it comes to the running back room. They're around these guys all the time. Believe it or not, I will trust their judgment. And I've seen, man, look, Emmett Johnson.
Do they have a coach in that running back room that can make running backs better? Or do you have to have them come ready-made?
3 games, Emmett Johnson with Daniel Holgerson, 239 rushing yards, 5.4 yards per carry, 146 receiving yards, 1 touchdown.
Aaron Kinney. Continue.
Who's there? Is that another Tennessee Titan?
Jason Jones. Continue.
I like the run. I trust I trust it. Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Was he a random guy?
I would consider. I mean, he's played for so many different teams that I think you could consider him random.
Drew Bennett was a good pass catcher.
Randy Moss was a Titan.
Randy Moss is such a good dude. That was so cool
know,
what they did for him last night
I
with the
totally agree
Vikings.
with Carter out there, and then Jefferson doing, saying shout out to him at the end of the game. Wait, is Warren Moon technically a Titan because he was an Oiler?
No.
Yeah, because I would drop an Irv Eatman on you, but he was never a Titan. He was just an
There's
Oiler.
a difference between the Oilers and the Titans, even though there's not.
I mean, the Titans. I did not like that the
Henry
Texans
here.
were doing the Houston Oilers jerseys.
Yeah.
Because the Texans are the Texans. They aren't the Oilers. The Oilers are the Titans.
Hey, Michael Ruse, I have no problem with that.
Yeah, I mean, mine are too recent to be.
Cortland Finnegan.
That was a good one.
That's a great one.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you want to go way back, I could just drop some Billy White Shoes Johnson and George Bland on you. Earl
And I got
Campbell.
the Oilers. Ernest Givens.
Elvin
Rhule.
Bethea.
Oh.
Well, I'll stick with the Titans. Jason McCourty.
Oh, that's a good one. Dang it.
How about the one before we get to Gary here? Kyle Vanden Bosch.
Luke Gifford. Delaney Walker.
Luke Gifford's going to end up being a guy that plays for a lot of NFL teams.
Good for Luke.
He's going to have the back of his football card is going to have a lengthy list of teams that he has played for.
And he's going to make a lot of money.
Here is Gary. Good morning, Gary.
Hey, Gary Sharp, how you doing?
Good. How you doing?
Hanging in there, buddy. Tomorrow's the day.
All right. Hey, good luck, by the way.
Thanks. Anyway, now that you guys are talking about the running back room, did Rhule try to recruit that Lacey dude that's now leaving Missouri?
Nebraska.
Juwan Lacey, I think his name is.
So Nebraska got a commitment from him in the middle of last summer.
Okay.
And two summers
two
summers ago.
He was
He committed to Nebraska, and then Ole Miss got involved, and he ended up at Mizzou. So Rhule hadn't committed to, wasn't on Nebraska's radar. I think when Kawan decided he was going to leave Mizzou, Ole Miss was all over him. So he's going he's going to Ole Miss.
I didn't know if we tried to go get him again or not.
No.
All right. Well, thank you, guys.
All right.
Happy holidays.
All right. Thanks, Gary.
Sean Phillips.
Low Neal. Henry Ford.
Blaine Bishop.
Ooh.
Damian Stafford.
Bubba McDowell. He was a Titan.
Mike Munchak. I think he was just an Oiler. Was he a Titan?
Munchak was only.
Okay.
Bruce Matthews was.
Okay.
Let me look it up.
Bruce Matthews
Wasn't
played
Steve
forever.
Hutchison a Titan?
And rest in peace, the great Steve McNair.
Yeah, he was.
Delaney Walker.
I said Delaney Walker.
You did?
I did say Delaney
Yancey
Walker.
Thigpen.
I didn't see it on the board. Sorry, my
Chris
bad.
Johnson. That's not random though. That's my problem. Mine aren't random enough.
Chris Johnson, before he got injured, I liked Chris Johnson a lot.
Robert Woods.
Keith Bullock. Here is random Mike. Good morning, Mike.
Every time one of you guys says random, my ears perk up. I mean, are they referring to me?
Yeah. So does Javon Curse. Okay, go ahead.
Hey, Matt, are you any relation to General McMaster?
I cannot believe it took this crowd 7 shows to ask that. No, I am not. I'm not a relative to General McMaster. It's Tim McMaster, right? Or is it Steve McMaster?
You know, I'm at the age now where if I can remember one of the two names, I'm happy.
Yeah, it's good.
I can't
No relation. No relation to Herbert McMaster.
It wasn't Herbert. Was it Herbert?
I think it is. I looked up General McMaster. It came up. What you got? What you got for us?
Yeah, same spelling though.
Oh, say McMaster, baby.
Okay. Do you guys agree with me that the Wisconsin win, boy, was one of the biggest games in a number of years? If that doesn't happen, everything else is the same. Man, things are so miserable.
I do, Mike. I think that look, without that win, you're not in the bowl game. And for this team to not be in a bowl game would be a detriment to the future of this program. So yeah,
I mean, it would be
based on the stakes and what happened after it. I totally agree.
And think of the recruiting effects in the portal.
Yeah,
new guys. But who's most responsible? Who was sensational? And who came through? We're always looking for guys that come through. It was Emmett Johnson.
Yeah. Well, Dowdell had 3 touchdowns in that game, right? I mean, they both.
You guys,
I scored.
I mean, everything, and could have easily had 100 yards rushing and 100 yards receiving, which I don't believe, Gary, has that ever been done in Nebraska?
I don't think so. I'll go back and look at that. That's a good question.
But I'm so glad we got him. But we need help there. I mean,
we do.
I mean, we need help there because he could get hurt at any moment, and you need more than one. So yeah, let's get some more. But I'm just really encouraged, and I'm always trying to look for the positive. As fans, we want hope, and I think with the coordinators we have, particularly on offense, but like you said, there's a lot of brain power on defense. Gary, you said something I thought was very wise. If you want to be a development team, in other words, making players better, you don't want to be in a situation where you got to coach the coaches too.
Yep.
And that's got to get a little better, no doubt about that.
And it
but,
has.
Hey, I'm hopeful. And hey, this is so much like the Gotham Bowl. And I think, again, there'll be a lot of people coming dressed up as snowy, empty seats.
See.
Yeah, it might be a little bit rough. I mean, yeah, it is what it is. It's a bowl game. No one can complain. Yet when you're 6-6, you get the 6-6 bowl game, Mike.
Yeah, a lot better than the alternative. No bowl game. All right, take care,
It'd
guys.
be miserable. It'd be awful right now. With no bowl game, the future of Matt Rhule, you'd be 10-14.
Do you think they
You'd
get?
be staying home.
Do you think these transfers who came in, they're affected? Do you think when Airy comes to the program, if they don't make a bowl, do you think that there's any weight there?
Is Mosey still here?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's coming here.
You don't think Gallup comes here if they don't make a bowl game?
Do they need a long snapper?
Jason Jones. He was he was a Titan. He was drafted by the Titans, but he was a Lion.
Is he coming here?
No. I'm still on the theme. Jason Jones. You know Jason Jones?
Yeah.
He's a good player.
It's just a random Jason Jones could play for a lot of people. Jason Jones could do a lot of things.
Is there a lot of Jason Joneses? Is that
There's
what
a lot
you're
of Jason Joneses?
There's a lot of
That's just like that's a common name.
Mm-hmm.
Jason Jones.
Jason Jones.
Jason Jones is a good sports name though.
That's a type of
Jason
name.
Jones would be a good quarterback name.
Yeah.
Jason
Jeffrey Jones was Rooney.
But Jason Jones would be a good college football quarterback name. I think it'd be a great college football quarterback name. Jason Jones is the type of name where you need a nickname before that. Curly Jones or like Hog Jones or something like that. Pot Roast Jones, something like that. Brat Jones.
I don't know that I want my quarterback to be
Ribeye Jones.
Pot Roast.
Ribeye Jones.
Jesus, the kid from Purdue that was on campus yesterday.
Yeah.
6'3", 240.
Little.
He not only drove by the Chuck, I wonder if he stopped at block 16 and had lunch.
Little.
He's a thick. I think Holgerson likes thick quarterbacks.
That's a weird.
He likes him some
thick is good.
quarterbacks. Some people like the thickness. I think Holgerson likes the thick quarterback. That's just my observation.
So this guy
Spelled
Marcos
THICC.
Marcos Gavia is who we're talking about. He's was with Purdue. Now he's on a visit to potentially go to Nebraska. He's a guy, backup quarterback is what we're gonna slot him as if he ends up going to NU. Just a little background here. So he's got 4 years of eligibility. He redshirted at Purdue. He was the 29th ranked quarterback on On3 in their industry rankings, which compiles the ESPN, the 24/7, the Rivals. He was 29. Danny Kaelin was 50th.
Mm-hmm.
So essentially, he would be an upgraded prospect over Kaelin, hypothetically, theoretically. But, there still is a year of full development that both of them went through. Kaelin could be better than he is right now.
Just juggle the quarterbacks, man. It's part of the game.
I don't think,
as
by
many
the way,
quarterbacks as possible.
By the way, I don't think it's a Dana thing with the whole big, thick quarterbacks. I think it's a Rhule thing.
I think
Sims.
But they didn't recruit Harburg.
Okay, but they played him.
Okay.
Sims, they recruited him, and they couldn't shut up about him, about how great he is and how he's an NFL prospect.
I think Rhule liked his thick running backs, and then he said, Dana, what do you like? And he said, I don't like my running backs thick, but I like my quarterbacks thick as thieves. It's Gary and Matt on 1620 The Zone. All right, to wrap this hour on the random Tennessee Titans, MCDC, Joe Walker, Lorenzo White.
Oh, I like Lorenzo White.
But with Joe Walker, thank you, MCDC, because speaking of Nebraska playing in Kansas City, 1998. The goal line stand that we lost our mind over, the Nebraska executed, and Mike Rucker said, "Not so fast, you cowpoke." And some people said, "Ooh, there is a chink in the armor of Nebraska football with that game going down to the end against Oklahoma State." But what was one of the highlights of the game in 1998?
Goal line stand.
Rob Ryan opposite
the mat.
That's bingo. Good on you. Joe Walker turned that game around with a 73-yard. I think it was 73-yard punt return.
Buddy Ryan actually had a couple of tidbits to his boys about how to play Nebraska, and so they came up with a scheme. And then if you want to do a fun deep dive on YouTube, you look up the Chiefs-Seahawks game the following night at Arrowhead.
That's right.
That was one of the biggest rainstorms. You'd never see that today.
Yeah. Then what, 17-16?
Yeah.
That's right.
Back when they didn't used to suspend
my
games.
My dad loved Buddy Ryan. Still talks about Buddy to this day.
He's one of the greatest defensive minds in the history of football.
I'm trying to think of a Titan.
Well, Joe Walker, so that was...
Eric Decker.
Okay.
Joe Bowden.
Taylor Lewan. Joe Walker's touchdown.
Malcolm Butler.
Okay. Kevin Bedard.
We did have a Kevin Dyson mention in the
Bayard.
chat.
Me.
Yeah, excuse you. You're excused.
Joe Walker, was about 7 minutes ago in that game. Howes one from 72 or 73, and then the goal line stand. So thank you.
I'm trying to think if I have I don't really. Oh, I have one Tennessee Titan memory, and you're gonna hate it.
The Miracle
home run throwback.
No, well, the Miracle, all that stuff that was before.
Why was Flutie benched?
Watching football? I don't know if that was. I don't know if that was before 2002 or after 2002.
Somebody's
but
triggered.
I wasn't alive or at least conscious enough to remember it or see it. Mariota to Mariota, and they end up winning that game. I was in Florida. I was actually in Marco for that.
Marcus Mariota. What they did. Mike Vrabel. That's what would scare me about hiring Vrabel is his history with quarterbacks.
Yeah, my problem is that I you're gonna laugh at me. I kind of want Brian Flores as my head coach, and then pray to God Brian Dable gets fired from the Giants, and then bring him on as an OC.
I don't think that's terrible.
That won't happen. But if I were to get a Christmas wish, that would be it.
I think Brian Flores will get another job.
I think he
this
will.
Cycle. I mean, there's going to be 7 to 10 jobs open. Kyle Shanahan, he's ready to leave. Bring Kyle Shanahan to the Midwest.
We're now going to have
a trade.
High pick.
Make a trade.
We're going to have a really high pick now.
There you go. To San Francisco for Kyle Shanahan.
Drew Bennett.
He's already on the board.
Damn
it. One more hour to go. It's Gary and Matt on 1620 The Zone. All right, I'm done with Gretna. The mayor of Gretna, Mike, naming ex-Titans brings up a bad moment. Josh Kalu, former Husker. And he wasn't offside when he blocked the field goal. Hell yes, he was. Game in Nashville. Yeah, he was. He was offside. He was offside. He was definitely offside. I was watching that game at Old Chicago. That was the game at Old Chicago, Jimmy, that I told the story about the lady wouldn't turn the game on. Wouldn't turn any football on a Sunday.
That's terrible.
So I want to watch the Chiefs game.
No wonder they went out of business.
Yeah, Old Chicago over on the cast. Done. I think all Old Chicago's in Omaha now.
Matt, you could have done the beer tour back in the day.
Yeah, old
But
style.
That's the day it happened.
Is there an Omaha bar with old style around here?
This building in the summer.
Yes,
Beauty.
that's true. We got it on the beer fridge.
Mm-hmm.
We have Brian Christopherson from Husker 24/7. Good morning, BC.
Hey, good morning, guys.
All right. I will say go. You are a Viking fan. Matt is a Bear fan. 30 last night. 30-12. Nice victory.
What am I going to do? I mean, that's like the kid sitting, he's got a bloody lip, like laying in the gravel over there. I mean, I go kick him in the backside now. I can't do that to Matt.
Well, your partner, Mike Schaefer, would gladly put his boot to my ribs if I had a bloody lip on all fours in the sandbox.
I hung out with friends who are big Bears fans yesterday, so I'm feeling kind of charitable about things. I could see the sadness, but there's also like a little bit of hope. Like maybe get Ben Johnson. Maybe Ben Johnson changes everything. And so I was like, you know what? We got Kevin O'Connell, who's running the ship just like how you want it. You know, maybe the Bears find that guy next year. So I'm not going to get too cocky because things can flip in 8 months. You know, so
I don't appreciate your pity, but it's okay. Thanks for not kicking me while I'm down.
I should have just kicked you probably.
Probably. I'd actually prefer you do.
Than the fake. Yeah. Okay. I'll remember that next time.
I appreciate it.
I'm with you, BC. You got a head coach that's won 12 or more games in 2 of the last 3 years. You know, I mean, not bad.
He's just got a temperament. Like I'm getting frustrated at the boys, you know, every week it's always a 3. Usually last night was an exception, but usually it's like a 3-point game and we're dropping an onside kick or something and it always gets interesting. But Kevin's always got that steady hand where you're like, we're going to be all right. And so you got to find that guy. Everybody's looking for that guy. I think the Vikings are going to win big with him at some point. I will put that on the record. I think O'Connell is going to get us over the top at some point.
So this is the discussion now that has entered in, and I think Sam Darnold's one of the top 10 bargains in the NFL this year. Do you keep him and JJ gets another redshirt year, or do you say you used us to make a lot of money and we're going to use you to get to the playoffs and we're going to move on? Like, do you want Sam Darnold as your starting quarterback next year?
Yeah, I do. I think he's got a good connection with KOC, and I think O'Connell's bringing the best out of him, and I'd like to see him run it back. And there's no sure thing. I mean, I know they liked McCarthy, you know, through their draft studies, but you guys know how that goes. You pick someone, and it obviously Sam Darnold knows how that goes. I mean, it's been a journey for him, and so I'd rather go with the hot hand, but you know, a lot's will play out and be based off of you know, if the Vikings exit in the first round of the playoffs or if they're in the NFC Championship game or something like that. I think it depends on how far they go with what decision they might make.
Yeah, I'm not calling Sam Darnold Brett Favre, but like JJ is 21. Like you could try and play out that, you know, 2-3 year SIP thing, and then he would benefit from it. And you know, he's the type of guy that would that definitely would get better. But I'll fire at you right now, Brian, with some Nebraska sports questions. I'm gonna give you a flashing one right off the bat. What's more likely? Because you're what I call a dual threat reporter. You do basketball and you do football. What's more likely? The Nebraska basketball team makes the NCAA tournament, or Nebraska football wins 8 or more games next year?
Well, I would say makes the NCAA tournament. I think both are definitely doable, and it should be goals. But I think that's the objective of this team. I mean, I feel like Hoiberg feels like his team 2 years ago would have made the tournament if not for some injuries, and they've kind of figured out sort of the way they want to build a roster and how that works together. They've got a veteran team. What I liked about Friday night against Indiana when they won 85-68 was you look out on the floor, and it's when it was 64-64, and you've got Raleigh Wooster, who's played a ton of games. You've got Andrew Morgan. I mean, all these guys are 4th, 5th year guys. And sure, they've been at different levels or different spots, but that really matters when you've got that experience on the floor. And I think it can show as they go through league play. But no doubt, Friday was a huge game. Like before the season, it's like, okay, there's that St. Mary's Creighton stretch where it's like Nebraska's got to split that. And then there's that 2-game big stretch where you got to split between Michigan State and Indiana. They got that done. Now you got to go out to the island and not get distracted when they hand you the lay at the airport and all that stuff. And they got to, because they're the best team there. But it's an easy place where you could screw around and go 1-2 somehow. So you got to make sure you handle your business out there.
Yeah, man. The luau and then the belly dancers or whatever they call them when they meet you at the airport. I like that.
You don't get distracted. You just keep your eyes straight ahead.
That's true. And don't find something on the beach that is like a little token, and then you go surfing and you hit your head, and next thing you know, you're in the Brady Bunch. The
current reference there.
Yes.
Went over my head.
Sorry, young man.
Yep.
Let's talk running backs. Okay. If you are Dana Holgorsen, the head coach of the offense, your ideal running back that carries the ball the most looks like what? Is Emmett Johnson the prototypical Dana Holgorsen running back, and everybody else looks similar, or will they reconfigure the running back room to have a bunch of different parts?
I always like when you get a little variance in size and sort of skill sets, but I think if you had to say, okay, who's the closest to the ideal, it's probably someone like Emmett, and I think you saw that the last 3 games just in his ability. I mean, he's a tough runner too. Like sometimes everybody gets caught up in this like prototype. You got to be this size to run between the tackles, and I don't always go along with that. I've seen some really good smaller backs that have physicality and can bounce off runs and finish things. So, the key question to me, and I think I said it last week when Emmett Johnson decided to come back, is I think he has shown within this offense. He's a good player, but now, like last night, as this news was happening with Dowdell, Amir Abdullah happened to be on the TV sets. And I think back and I still go to Amir and Rex Burkhead as like the last time I felt Nebraska had backs where I was like, that's that level beyond good, right? That's the guys who can just take over a game. And I think Emmett's got to still prove that. But he made a nice step with Dana, and we saw how that can work together. And now the next part is, can you be that guy who sidesteps that defender at the 2nd level, the 3rd level? And you heard Rhule talk about it all season. Takes a 10-yard run and makes it a 60-yard run. And obviously that's not going to happen, every week or whatever. But it just didn't happen really at all. And so that's got to be the next thing, is that back who hits home runs on occasion and makes a play that maybe you don't even expect. Emmett showed glimpses of that, though. And so to your question, long answer long, I think Emmett's the closest thing he can, because he can catch the ball and he can do all those various traits.
The last couple of years, Nebraska has benefited in the portal from wide receivers, and typically the leading receiver on the team or the top receivers on the team have been guys from the transfer portal, right? Samori Toure, Trey Palmer, your top 2 targets last year, Jamal Banks, Isaiah Nair, both coming from the transfer portal. Right now, I mean, they're in contention for a couple of guys, but if you had to bet here, Brian, do you think that this year and this portal season that trend continues, or do you think that after all this high school recruiting that Nebraska is going to go more toward their guys who they've gotten from high school to be their top pass catchers?
I think they'll have someone from the portal that comes in and at least is top 2 on that list, and I wouldn't be surprised if top 1. I mean, there's interesting targets out there. I think Isaiah Hunter's an intriguing guy. I don't. We'll see what happens. Eric Rivers was on campus and just tore it up, and really is sort of a guy who had to pay his dues through the college football cycle before he had last year's breakout season at Florida International. So I think there are players like that that could pop in and continue the trend we've seen. So I guess I would bet, if you said you have to pick one or the other, I'd probably bet on a transfer guy that's going to be really accomplished coming in and maybe still leading the way. But, with what Ja'Cory Barney did last year, and you think about also, guys, the yards that were taken away like early in the season with penalties. I mean, some of them were runs and might have counted toward rushing stats, but he probably had 100-some yards that were left off his stat sheet because of flags. So certainly you wouldn't be a fool to say Ja'Cory Barney could do it the way he has sort of that dog mindset. And I would still remember this very fondly about Ja'Cory Barney. December of last year, I was doing an interview before he got on campus with him. And, I was almost trying to, within the interview, like calm it down a notch because he was so confident in what he was going to do and like how he was going to contribute right away. So my questions were kind of like, okay, let's bring it back one notch. But he knew that he was going to come here and change things in that room and be a guy right away. And he was right. And who else has that same mentality is Cortez Mills. When I talked to him, they're from the same tree. It just it was so similar how they talked going into their first year of college football.
That is ironic. And I give you full credit. You were on the Ja'Cory Barney bandwagon before he ever got on any of our radar. I know how high you were. I want to make a mention here before we get into quarterbacks. For people that are trying to buy tickets to the game in Kansas City, the pre-sale code that was provided to season ticket holders is not working.
Wow.
So just if you are having trouble, all of us are having trouble buying tickets. With the discussion about Harburg going full-time tight end after the bowl game, the Purdue quarterback is on campus. They've got TJ Lateef, who I think is going to be a really good addition. You got Dylan's brother coming in the next recruiting class. What's your read on what they're trying to do with the quarterback room with Dylan at the top so that they can move forward in 25, that Harburg can be a full-time tight end?
My read is right now you just think about, this is how I would think about it. 25, just like find the guy you feel like can be the most solid second guy. Don't get so caught up in like what it's going to look like in 2027. You know what I mean? Like sometimes we play this game with quarterback where it's like, okay, this perfect scenario. We did this when Danny Kalen was here. People would be like, okay, Rhule is going to have it for 3 years. Then it's going to be Kalen. That it doesn't work out like that hardly ever. So you can't get caught up in that. You really have to just think like, even if this is a younger player you're bringing in, like a Davila who was visiting yesterday, is he the guy you feel like he's got the IQ and all that to right away as a young player, like he could be like maybe your number 2 guy this next season, and you're like, that's okay. Now, everybody across the country is going to look at their quarterback rooms. This has always sort of been the case, but I think it's going to be more so than ever, where they're going to have to grit their teeth a little when they look at like the second and third guy in the room. I just don't think we're going to see a lot of QB rooms that are just stacked where it's like, oh man, you look at what they've got as a backup. That just doesn't work at most places, especially because everybody's looking to play right now. So if you could get a guy that you feel really good about, like his brain power and picking up what you're going to ask him to do. And I know Holgerson knows a little bit about Marcos Davila from having recruited him. So that connection, maybe, I don't know how great it is, but it's intriguing. He was he tore it up down in Texas, threw for a lot of yards. And so I think this staff probably has good familiarity with guys like that and what they've done throughout their high school careers. So I think he's the type of prospect you're looking at to try to at least give yourself the depth. But everybody's got to understand it's never going to you're never just going to be real comfortable, I think, with like your top 3 QBs anymore. And I don't know that it ever was the case. I think back to championship Husker teams when you got down to like the 3rd string quarterback, the offense was pretty limited. I know we sort of look back now on history with sort of this fondness about like everything that happened, but they were pretty limited once they got beyond like 2 QBs. So it's always been that way, and it's more so even now.
So you go to the hires on the defensive staff, Brian, that Matt Rhule has made this year. He added the offensive or outside linebackers coach, Phil Simpson. They hire a new DBs coach after promoting John Butler to DC and Addison Williams. And both those guys have major Florida connections. And we've seen the success of these prospects coming out of Florida. Vincent Shavers, Ja'Cory Barney, Willis McGahee. Is the attitude in that football program right now that they need to be pulling 5 to 6 guys every recruiting class out of that area because of now the hires that they've made?
I don't know what number they put on it, but I think you're in the ballpark where you say, we've got these connections that are so good in this area, and we now have success stories stacked on top of that, that's a pretty nice formula to sell kids. Like, it's not just that Phil Simpson's in the building. That's a big part. But Phil Simpson can also say, look what Ja'Cory did, man. You've seen what Willis is doing and, Shavers and all these guys. And I think you're going to hear a lot more from Amari and Larry Tarver this year too. So I think we even talked about last week, they hit an amazing percentage that first season with those guys. And so that's obviously great for Husker football on the field, but it's great for them off the field because you can point guys in that direction. And I think there's the hope they can do a similar thing sort of, in the Kansas City area now with the connections that Jamar Mosey and other guys on staff have. And if some of those guys can get on the field and play a little bit more this year, that furthers that too. So no question, they need to take advantage of that Miami area with the guys they have. And I think, Addison Williams is going to be a good addition to that. Terry Braden has some, links down there and the D-line coach. And so Terry Braden's really an interesting guy. I was talking to DiCaprio Boodle, who was in the
that was a good story.
Chiefs locker room. And he said, because he's an assistant D-line coach, so some people are like, okay, well, what's that about? But Boodle said he was one of the most hands-on coaches in the building when I was there, and he said he was available to whether you're a rookie or an all-pro guy. He said he just made himself known that way. And so anybody who's sort of like, I don't know about that hire, I'll just remind people, 2 years ago when Terrence Knighton was hired, people were like, is he the full-time D-line coach or the assistant D-line coach? Because at that time, T. Knighton didn't really have anything on his resume as far as coaching, or much at all, at least. And so that was what we were talking about a couple of years ago. So I think if you actually compared what guys have done, Braden's, probably done more as a coach to this point.
Yeah, I think that's an under the radar, but if you know type of hire with him. Hey, BC, have a wonderful Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and safe travels to you and Brunsey out to New York City.
All right. Thanks a lot, guys. Always enjoy being on.
Thanks, Brian.
Brian Christopherson from Husker 24/7. Again, if you are trying to get tickets to the game in Kansas City and you are not a fan of Ticketmaster,
terrible.
Everybody's getting back because we're all sharing our stories now. Invalid code.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy. Jake Locker.
I'm not going to miss Arrowhead.
There was a run of the quarterback room, something that Brian said. Remember in, you might know this, early 90s, remember Tony Veland started at Nebraska as a quarterback.
Dude.
But you had Behringer and Frazier. You had Matt Turman in that room. You had Ben Roots. So they had, their quarterback room was stacked. I think in this day and age, there are, as Brian was talking about the quarterbacks, I went and looked this up on the database. There are 318 quarterbacks that are in the portal right now.
Jeez.
318.
That is insane.
Now, not all of them are created equal. Not all of them are the quarterback from Washington State that went in the portal yesterday. You take out Hunter Brown from Auburn to Iowa. But I think you take a quarterback in every class, a high school quarterback, and you got to play the game nowadays. You just juggle. The quarterbacks are not going to stay there their entire career. You get one. Hopefully you get him going early in his career and you get 3 years out of him, but you don't want him more than 3. Because, like, for example, you could look at Dylan and go, hey, give us 2 good ones, and then, it's time for you to go to the NFL because we got this guy named Latif. And remember, your brother is coming.
Sure.
So you're going to have to play the game. And I think quarterbacks understand now that, you know what, if you're not the number one guy, maybe you're here for an apprenticeship for 1 year, or there's a plan that maybe you're the guy next year. You just have to play the game, and you hold on to your number one guy, and you hope he comes through, and then you fill it in.
Real quick before we go to break, I like your point, but I think what Brian was alluding to, I agree with more. I think Brian wants them to bring in a dude who can just be the backup quarterback right away. It's not necessarily about what can you do when Dylan is gone. It's if Dylan gets hurt, can you get to that near that level of production? And so I think while I like this guy and I think he's a hell of an athlete, getting a guy with actual game experience that has some actual games behind him is more important.
I'm with you, and they need a good backup. But it might be a situation where you can't attract a good backup because of who's starting.
Maybe Billy Edwards Jr.
That was a good pickup for Wisconsin.
They got him.
They got Billy yesterday.
They got Billy Edwards Jr.
Yes, yesterday he committed.
Good for him. That's a great pickup for him. I liked him a ton in Maryland. I liked him a lot in Maryland.
That's 3 straight years of Luke Fickell and a portal quarterback.
Mordecai Van Dyke and Edwards. That sounds like a really crappy law firm.
Gary and Matt. Good law firm. Continues after this. Cool deal. Well, two things from Notre Dame. Earmuffs, since you're not a fan of Notre Dame. Is Xavier Watts one of the best high school players in the state of Nebraska that went elsewhere and had the college career that he's had? First team All-American yesterday. He's had an unbelievable career from Omaha Burke straight to Notre Dame, stayed at Notre Dame his entire career. He has had an that list is short. Like Sayers would be like at KU, but X-Man at Notre Dame. That's it. Great career. Now he's going to be in the playoff on Friday night.
Larry Station was Omaha, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
we don't mention him. That's a sore subject around here.
I know.
But from Omaha Central to Iowa and became one of the greatest college linebackers of all time. Anthony Rizak has been playing the role of Curtis Rourke all week long on the scout team for Notre Dame.
I was going to say, 1 second. I'm trying to look at something.
Local
here.
connection, if I ever heard one.
Where is this? I'm trying to find out. The Notre Dame defensive backs coach Notre Dame is putting incredible dudes in the NFL at corner. Julian Love has had a good career for the Giants and for the Seattle Seahawks. Kyle Hamilton is playing pretty good football. He played better last year.
He should have been drafted higher.
I still cannot believe he fell that far. You're going to have Xavier Watts heading to the league. Christian Gray is currently a sophomore. He's the one lining up across the field from Watts. Down on the field from Watts. He's a corner. He's another guy who'll probably make it to the league too. I don't know. I don't know if they've had one continuous coach for Notre Dame at DB's coach, but man, like they're not CBU or close to it or anything like that, but they got some real DBs coming out of that program.
Marcus Freeman has a pretty good coaching staff. I mean, I'm glad that maybe this will ignite a rivalry between IU and Notre Dame, and they'll play on a regular basis.
I'll say this too.
This Notre Dame team.
I've been to multiple Notre Dame games, and it's year in and year out. They're having the same exact dudes around the sideline, and they're getting into it, whether it be guys who are actually having assistant coaching roles or whether they're just analysts or whatever. And I feel like when you can keep that continuity and that conglomerate of guys around your team that only elevate your culture is massive. I think I would love Marcus Freeman if he was coaching anywhere else, but man, like he's one hell of a coach. He really is one hell of a coach. It's a damn shame
Bill hits me up on Twitter. He says, "What's the passcode? The passcode ain't working. Everybody's getting an invalid code. Ticketmaster, have fun." See, Cincinnati screwed us. Cincinnati, the code they gave to their fans probably is working.
Mike Mickens. That's who you can give the title of really good developer at the CB and safety position for Notre Dame. He's been there since 2020. He coached the Notre Dame quarterbacks from 2020 to 2022, and now he's the defensive pass game coordinator. That's a guy who maybe could become a defensive coordinator, period, elsewhere in college football. That guy's been doing a hell of a job. Mike Mickens, remember the name.
All right, put Harrison Phillips on this list of high school products that went elsewhere that had a hell of a career. Noah Fant.
Oh, Noah Fant's
Dennis says Easton Stick and R.J. Erzendowski, who went from prep to North Dakota State. Vince Morrow being courted by Bill Belichick in North Carolina.
Do you count Danny Woodhead?
Yeah, first time at Chadron State. I mean, he did get to the College Football Hall of Fame.
Yeah. I know it's Chadron, but hell of a career.
X-Man, though. X-Man might be right underneath Sayers.
He keeps saying that, and I keep thinking of the video online of he and Charles Oakley fighting. That's a different X-Man. It was on Twitter yesterday.
Speaking of basketball, we all fired up. We're having an NBA Cup party tonight to watch Oklahoma City and Milwaukee play for a lot of money in Las Vegas.
I was going to say I didn't even know. I'm just so
that it was tonight.
I'm just so disappointed in what the NBA has become, man. Like I used to be like all into
the
it.
Nugget King game last night was a little exciting, except for DeMar DeRozan's fumble.
Okay, ready for this? Safeties in the NFL from Notre Dame: Kyle Hamilton, Brandon Joseph, Thomas Harper, Harrison Smith, Julian Love. I mean, there are 4 names there where you're like, man, those guys are. Cam Hart's a pretty good corner over in San Diego or LA Chargers too. I mean, they got some DBs over there. They're coming from Notre Dame. They're legit. Christian Gray is the next one up too. NBA Cup Party. I'll watch it. I'm watching more college basketball than ever. I've never watched more college basketball in my life. And I watch a college basketball game and I watch an NBA game, and I like college basketball way more. There's talent. There's great talent in college basketball, but there's still the game of basketball. It's still
that's fair.
X's and O's and movements. And like Northwestern is playing really good right now. They're overachieving the expectations that people had for them, and they beat Illinois at home. They got 2 guys in Brooks Barnheiser and Nick Martinelli. Do you know what those guys do? They go in the low post.
Northwestern friggin' forever. That's what they do.
They go to the low post. They go 2 dribbles and they do a baby hook, or they do a spin around and they do a mid range, or they get right under the basket and they draw a foul.
Hey, wait a minute. Maxey and Harden did last night in the NBA.
Harden draws lots of foul.
Hey, Harden was pretty good last night against the Jazz. Maxey was a 40 burger. I watched a lot of NBA last night, of course.
I'll tell you right now, like they really need to. I think Shai Gilgeous-Alexander winning the MVP would be great for that league.
Oklahoma City winning the championship as a small market team, which we haven't run of Denver and Milwaukee and Oklahoma City, I think would be good as well.
Sam Presti is one of the greatest general managers.
Spurs legend.
I know he hasn't won a title yet, but man, the run that he's been on, dating all the way back to KD and Harden and Russ, and then flipping that into George, and then flipping George into he once again hasn't won a title yet. You can maybe proclaim him as one of the best GMs cannot win a title, because he's done one hell of a job with that team and keeping them competitive in that small of a market for that long. And them being good for that long has made that market love that team. If they went to Oklahoma City and they were bad, there would be some rumblings, or kind of like how we hear the rumblings about New Orleans, right? Of whether or not that's going to be a viable place.
I give them credit. They had a stretch recently where they were not very good, because they moved. They had the core of Durant, Harden, and Westbrook. They had to move them out, and all these picks that they have, and I still think they have like 57 picks.
Yeah, so Spurs have 49.
So getting the one of the top picks turned into SGA, and then Chet Holmgren, and they've done a nice job. Because outside of that, it's not a super well-known roster. But God, they play well. They play well. They play well together. Name. You can't even name the coach.
He's like 30, right?
How do you say it? Denault?
Denault.
Mark Denault.
It's Mark Denault. I think he's younger than LeBron.
Many are.
If I'm not mistaken. The thing, though, that Oklahoma City was bad for a long time, but they had all those picks that people kept the hope that they were going to be good. So people still invested in that team, and they still had Ty Jerome and Lou Dort and other young players or whatever. But I'll watch the Cup. They'll probably, they took the Bulls off of television in Chicago, so my watching basketball has been at an all-time low. They made this BS Yes Network / Marquee Network and turned it into CHSN. And
I know I'm not going to watch the Bulls, go out of my way to watch the Bulls, but Marquee being with the Cubs is a pain.
It's such a pain. I mean, these are struggles that people all over Nebraska deal with, though, that they, in order to watch their favorite teams, they have to buy these separate streaming networks that are way too overpriced. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous.
GD Manfred.
He's the worst.
At least we're not in Des Moines, where you have, I think, they're up to 6 teams that are blacked out.
Yeah. Isn't the Nuggets?
Just the Royals are just the only team here that's blacked out.
Aren't the Nuggets and the Timberwolves and the Thunder blacked out in Nebraska? Something ridiculous like that?
So it's very random on FS1, but now it's the Timberwolves. We are a Timberwolves market.
They're our team.
So it used to be the Thunder, and then there was a brief time where it was the Nuggets, and now we're the Timberwolf market.
I've never met a Timberwolves fan in Nebraska.
Minnesota Timberwolves of Omaha?
Not in Lincoln. But I haven't met that many NBA fans in Nebraska, period.
That's true. Like we will talk more NBA when we get to April, when the playoffs are here.
Yeah, when they're fun and their storylines.
Or when Jimmy Butler is doing Jimmy Butler things.
He's awesome. I love him. The Bulls should never have gotten rid of him.
Well, I feel like his time is coming to an end in Miami.
Have fun in Phoenix.
Many have.
They have.
Including me.
Kevin Durant for Jimmy Butler. What?
I went to spring break in Phoenix.
And
it was awesome. Loved it.
Warm. Baseball.
You could probably go. Did you?
Yeah.
Did you? Okay, so you went baseball.
Went Sloan Park.
Okay.
Then went to the Gila River Resort and Casino. That was a lot of fun. And then we did our Airbnb had a built-in pool. Had a in-ground pool.
Nice.
So we did pool days, man.
Like
Like
an
all
ASU
4
day.
days. Like we just hung by the
Jimmy, to
pool.
be that age again.
I know.
You know, met some people, brought them over, had a good time. You know, here's
Lots
a
of
guy.
DNA just sprayed
Here's a
around.
guy that knows how to have a good time, Mike.
Gary and Matt wrap the show next. All right, we're back, baby. If you want to go to Kansas City, if you're you got the pre-sale season ticket holder code. The first code didn't work. The second code is working.
You got another? They emailed you another one?
Yeah. People were not happy.
So what is the most expensive? Can you tell us what the most expensive
So I'm
ticket
sitting here
on there right now is?
It's the 100 level. I mean, everything is above $100 when you throw in fees. It does because you got to remember they got Ticketmaster, so the fees are
going to be stupid.
Yeah.
Is there a bottom line percentage rate on that, or is it kind of just based on event? Like, is it like 33% no matter what ticket you buy, or does it depend on like where you're going, what you're doing, the state you're attending in?
I think all the above.
Okay. What's the most expensive ticket?
Hold on here. I'm not in. I just know
Oh, you're in line?
I just know the code works here. So I will let you know. But I do know that the 300 level is 75.
What sells out first, the 300 level or the 100 level? It's always a great question.
I don't think the game sells out. I don't think the game sells out today.
Oh, today.
Today.
Right. It'll sell out by
I
the
think
game day, but yes, okay.
There are going to be more people like me. I'm buying in July.
I'm telling you, you guys are going to have a great time.
I'm buying
That's
June
not
and July.
sarcasm.
We'll get it in a weird, slot.
Hey, I was living in a much warmer climate in 06, but I was at the 98 game. That was great. Oklahoma State, that was their home game. And it felt like a Nebraska home game. That's
awesome.
what it'll be like on the Thursday to start the season. I like the relationship with Kansas City. I'm glad. I think we're through the trend of neutral site non-conference games where instead of Alabama and Wisconsin playing at Lambeau Field, which LSU and Wisconsin played at Lambeau Field and then they played at Jerry's World, Alabama's going to Madison, Wisconsin's going to Tuscaloosa. I'm not a fan of neutral site college football games. College football is meant to be played on campus with the pageantry. Neutral site games are for the national championship or bowl games or conference championship games. So we used to have a lot more of these. We are getting fewer and fewer of the Chick-fil-A classics, which will probably never go away.
I disagree. I think it depends on where the neutral site game is being played. So, for example, if there was a Kansas City, college football team right next to Kansas City, like how far is Lawrence from Kansas City?
About 40 minutes.
Yeah,
30
like that's
the way
cool. I like that. Like, or if Northwestern is playing Illinois,
Chicago's
but they play
Big Ten team.
they play it at Soldier Field.
Yeah.
Like that, to get more people into the building because there's maybe the capacity isn't as high and it makes tickets cheaper. Whatever, it's an event that you can sell. I'm a fan of that. Like Wisconsin playing
would they sell out Soldier Field
for Illinois?
Did they sell out Wrigley Field?
I don't know if it was. I know a lot of people were there. I don't know if it was a straight sellout. I think they would because Soldier Field's not that much bigger than Wrigley. Wrigley's, I think it's only like what Wrigley's
football
40,
is what 37, 38.
Wrigley's 41,000 for just general attendance. I think Soldier Field, if I had to guess, is like high 50s. It is 61. I don't think there'd be 61,000 people for an Illinois Northwestern game. But the point is all the same. Like if the neutral site is less than an hour away and it's a kind of a cool place that it's niche, it's once every 10 years, I'm a fan of that. If you're going to Lambeau every other year and you're Wisconsin, I'd be like, I don't want to do that, But if it's cool, like if it's a novelty, I'm fine. I think it's really cool that they're going to Arrowhead. I think, but like
I know this will be labeled as a neutral site, but it's within like close driving distance.
Exactly.
I'm talking like LSU, USC, and Vegas is like a true neutral site game.
I wouldn't do. So that's where
or when they have Alabama, USC played a couple years ago at Jerry's World. Yeah. That's the true neutral site game. That's the one-off. College football to me is to be played on campus.
I like the novelty every once in a while. You go to a newer venue that is unique and niche. I agree.
So like maybe Minnesota playing at US Bank Stadium along your lines?
Yes, exactly. Or another good example would be, Georgia always plays in the Mercedes-Benz Stadium anyway. But like if Boston College like playing at Gillette. Do they play at Gillette all the time already?
No.
Yeah, they used to play in Foxborough.
They have a nice little stadium.
I think they do, yeah. But just close by. But what you just talked about, USC and
like that,
and Bama playing in Vegas, like everyone's got to take a flight to get out there. I'm out. I'm out on that.
But that's the true neutral site game, I think.
if everybody has to take a flight to where you're playing the neutral site game, then I'm out. But if you can drive, if at least one fan base can drive there, I'm for it.
A lot of fans in '98. A lot of fans in 2006.
I think it'll sell out.
They got a lot of time to sell tickets.
76,000.
It'll be a party. It'll be a good time.
It's going to be a great time.
Be warm.
And I think it'll be 90% Nebraska Cornhuskers. And I think it's going to be a major advantage.
It might even be more.
Yeah, it'll be a swamp ass special that night.
I mean, if you're a Cincinnati fan, you're driving to Kansas City for a Thursday.
They'll have to tell them it is Burrowhead to get them to drive over there.
And that's true. That's another thing too. There's probably a lot of
It's 10 hours.
Husker. There's a lot of Husker alum, I bet, in Kansas City as it is already, who are just going to be like, all right, I'm going to the game. It's a close drive. How many people from Cincinnati are in Kansas City?
It's if I was in the football program, I'd be pissed. They sold Nebraska a game.
Yeah, just give them a road.
They sold them a game.
You got to keep the lights on.
Then don't join the Big 12.
Yeah.
Stay as a group of 5 program. They sold Nebraska. They said first of all, they're going to make more money on a Thursday night than they will on a Saturday.
Absolutely.
And they couldn't play on Saturday because of the Royals anyhow. But I mean, they think they'll bring about $2.5 to $4 million in. Your athletic department sold a football game essentially to Nebraska.
It'll be 95% Husker.
I mean, you might as well Nebraska chip in a mill. They could have just brought the game to Lincoln, turned it into a home game for Nebraska.
Yeah, I think you would. I was about to ask a stupid question. I still think it's cool though that they're going to Kansas City. I was about to ask, would you rather have the game at Memorial or Arrowhead? Obviously, you'd rather have it at Memorial, but I think Arrowhead's cool. I think this is like I said, just as long as you don't do it every single year, or you're not going to a stadium, an NFL stadium, every 2 or 3 years, I think I'm cool with it. But if this becomes a habit of like, all right, this year we're going to Arrowhead. Next year we're going to Lambeau. Hey, the year after that, we're going to go and play Washington at the Seahawks Stadium. Hey, now we're going to go and play Houston. We're going to play them at NRG Stadium. Like,
we have a stadium.
I would hate that. I would absolutely.
We do have a stadium.
I would absolutely hate that. But if it's once every 10 years, I'm like, cool, I'll go, man. It's good. The Kansas City's got good barbecue. Call up Derek Walker. What does he want to eat?
We're going to expand. We got a year, Jimmy, to expand his knowledge of Kansas City.
I got
know a couple things.
I have zero.
Take your buddies and go on the Boulevard tour.
Here's another thing, too.
You get your money's worth and you'll be stumbling around.
Before I start learning about Kansas City, I need to start learning about Omaha. Okay, I know
that's true.
I know
you were able
nothing.
to navigate yesterday. I saw you driving downtown.
I did. I was able. He saw me, but then I pulled a very expert move. So Gary and I, we went over to Baseball Village. Jimmy, you were there too.
I think so.
We had to.
Memorable.
We had to take pictures for the show because we're a new show and whatnot. Did you see the expert move I pulled off here?
Yeah. Did you see what I tried to do to you? Because I knew what you were doing.
So Jimmy, I'm ahead of Gare the whole time. Just I got out of the parking lot first, and I knew that you just take a right and then you go straight down. And once
Days of Thunder.
Once you get to the Schwab, right? Gary was like, "Oh, it's in right field." I'm like, "All right, so I'll take a right here." But I didn't know exactly where the baseball village was to park, so I take a right.
You'll be sick of it in about a year.
I get in the right lane and I don't take a right on red. I'm waiting to see Gary's car pull up. And so I'm waiting. Gary's car pulls up. I go, great. So then I go. Gary follows behind me. And then I like kind of pull to the right. I slow down. But then this, what over here, starts slowing down with me. So he's getting, we're now crawling right next to the Schwab at what had to be 8 miles an hour. And I'm signaling hey, you get ahead or go to the left. I know he knows I'm doing some motions. He just looks straight. He's still on his phone. He's talking to someone. And we are going at this point, we're going 5 miles an hour down the Schwab. And I have no idea where I'm at. I have no idea where I'm supposed to turn.
Just find Zesto's. Good place to meet a girl.
And we're just crawling. And then Gary, I think eventually just kind of came to and was like, all right, now here it is. And he just pulls into, Baseball Village and then we park.
I didn't know it was him when I pulled up by him because I was talking on the phone. And then I was like, oh, okay. I don't know if you're
I don't believe that for a second. I think you were trying to mess with me because there was no one on the road. We weren't being dangerous or anything like that. But I was waiting. I didn't know where I was at. I got to the Schwab.
LSU fans weren't here yet.
I went toward right field, and then I was just waiting for Gary. I said, Jesus, take the wheel. And in this case, Jesus was Gary.
Thank you.
Wow.
Well, that's
a takeaway here.
Hey, that's a lot of friggin' pressure.
That's
I
a
don't
hot
want
take.
that. I don't want that. That's
It always comes back to Notre Dame.
That's your worst take of the day. That's the worst take of the day. Is
You act
putting
like
my
I
name
had
in
a lot
Jesus.
of bad takes. I had one mid take. I'm saying it's mid.
I hate the word hot take, by the way. That's why I'm really surprised that we've not talked about Jim Rome as moving off of middays.
I'm mad about that because I like I'm a Rich Eisen fan, and I like watching him in kind of in that morningish slot to get in my stuff early. The fact that I got to wait now until 12 to 3 for him to go on.
What are we going to do over on 1180? We're one of the OGs of
Mm-hmm.
the Jim Rome show, and he's moving off middays. He's going to afternoons.
Why do they do that? Is that is that a ratings thing, or is that
I want to sleep a little more?
I know. I think it's a financial deal. With Xfinity?
So who's going to mornings if
I don't know.
Eisen's off
So we carry Dan Patrick till 11.
Yeah.
And then Rome's from 11 to 2. Is our guy Zach still 2 to 6, Zach Gelb?
I think so.
Okay. But Rome has been a staple because he used to be on 1620 from 11 to 2. We used to do the morning show from 7 to 11. Rome would do 11 to 2, and then USC would take over because Omaha is one of the original markets for the Jim Rome show.
And
but now he's going to the afternoons. So I imagine we'll carry him in the afternoons, but does that mean Eisen is going to be middays and for the first time
So he's
we'll air-
going 12 to 3.
Yeah, Eisen is?
Eisen's
so
going 12
maybe
to 3.
we will be airing Rich Eisen for the
Because
first time in
Eisen-
this market.
Because Eisen has his own television show on the Roku channel, which goes on. I watch him on YouTube. I don't watch him on Roku, but then he's West Coast radio.
Yeah, I know he's 9 to 12 LA time at he's across the street from SoFi in the NFL Network studios.
Yes. I love that show. That's my favorite show that I listen to. But I'm now mad that he's now 12 to 3. Like I like him in the morning because the West Coast time and everything like that. Like you kind of get things refreshed pretty quickly. And Rich Eisen's got some of the best interviews.
He's good.
Weekly.
He's really good. All right. That'll do it for a Tuesday edition. We'll come back on Wednesday. Who knows what the portal will giveth or the portal will taketh away. Plus, we'll have wall-to-wall coverage of the NBA Cup. No, we're just kidding. We will talk about the Scooters Frisco Bowl.
Yes.
It is our connection to a bowl game.
Who gets scalding hot coffee dumped on them tonight?
Memphis or whoever is coaching West Virginia.
Bill Stewart. Is he still alive?
No, he's not.
Damn.
Rest in peace. For Jimmy, for Matt, I'm Gary. Crossover's next.